Welcome, everyone. This is the Ends Justify the Means, the show where the lowest of the low, that is the most wretched of wretched and deplorable, to end all deplorables, to white, heterosexual, Christian males from the American South, and today a Texan too. Talk about culture, philosophy, history, health, fitness, and what it means to be a man in the 21st century. I'll be your host, Bill. This is my co-host and producer, Tank. And below we have Don from Plebeian Media. So crack open a beer and lend us your ear, because the ends always justify the means. Well, hey, I didn't screw up the intro.
Congratulations. Better than me.
Yeah. I was never in radio, but my father was. So, gotta do the old radio introduction, I guess. And
I know what a radio reset is. I'm very familiar with and aware of them, and I intend to do them all the time, and then just literally never do. So you could be worse. That's all I'm saying. Also, chat, behave yourself. I see you.
Yeah, don't Fed post. We have a banner for that. All right, guys. So normally I ask Tank how he's doing and if he has something to drink, but it doesn't look like he's drinking today.
I am. I have some scotch over here. Yeah. So
okay. I
just don't have much left, so I don't have the bottle out.
Well, good for you, man. I'm drinking green tea and water. I drank last night. I shouldn't have. In any case, let's get into the Memecast news. Don is going to share in the Memecast news with us. And let's see here real quick. I got to get my well, sorry, guys. We're obviously quite professional.
Boomerism is my fault. It's been determined across the internet. Well, me or Sargon, so.
Yeah, right. Sargon for sure. So, Tank, you didn't play the intro.
Oh, shit. My bad. Hold on.
All right, the boomerism is late, guys. No, seriously, Tank just got off work and just got home, so that's part of probably the unpreparedness. So, in any case, here we have, I'm absolutely disgusted today. The hallowed halls of Congress were filled with violent, depraved individuals with no regard for the people of this country or their values. With nearly no resistance, they were able to enter the Senate floor. It's a disgusting act. It can't go unpublished. Pictured here. All right.
Next I approve entirely.
Right. Just for consideration, Mad Max was set in 2021. It is socially acceptable to dress like this straight away, or do we give it a few weeks? Oh, debate Alaska. And here we have Donald Trump giving some instructions down the hall and to the left. God, when they cut that out of Home Alone, that was quite ridiculous. Like, how insane?
How petty do you have to be, right? Like, oh my God, we're gonna remove you from a movie from the 90s. You're such a terrible person.
Yeah, and he was obviously in the movie because everyone seemed to love him as a personality back then.
Right. For the days.
Right. Got to size some of these up on the fly here. It says, ACAB, abolish the police, overthrow the government. The revolution has arrived. And then it's, no! Why are the police stopping these radicals? I think this guy's just kicking back a little bit, the way I see it, Here we have one man took a knee. The other man took a stand.
I saw this, and it's funny every time.
So it says, New Jersey Rep. Andy Kim helps clean up the wreckage left by Capitol rioters. We will rebuild.
So do we all know what the bottom thing is?
The bottom meme? What do you...
Yeah, the we will rebuild with the one knocked over chair.
I don't know where it comes from originally, but I've seen it before.
So when Hurricane Earl happened and it just sat out in the ocean and spun itself into a tropical storm, right after that, there was an earthquake on the East Coast that was like a 2 magnitude earthquake or 3 or something like that. And they were all, the whole East Coast was like, oh my God, it's this big giant earthquake, man. And every single person that I knew in California sent me that meme and was like, "So how are they doing over there? Are they going to make it? Is it even this bad? Like, is it worse than this?"
Yeah, it's funny because the news was covering like this, and there was these little piles of garbage outside, and they're like, "Look at this looting and the terrible things that they did here at the Capitol building." And I'm like, oh, man, the gaslighting is just par excellence right now, you know?
Right.
Anyway,
look at all these terrible people who didn't burn something down.
Right. So here we have Biden in June, Biden in July, Biden in August. And finally, this violence is a threat and must end now.
You know, I hate fact checking memes, but there's no way he wasn't touching kids then.
Oh well, I mean, I think I got a sniffer pick in here somewhere. So, little old lady terrorist and person being an arsonist is just a protester, just a protest of peace, rise of peace, folks. Here we have Greta was discovered by internet sleuths, was undercover at the Capitol invasion.
Well, I think that confirms that it's an Antifa op. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
You know, I watched your stream you did right after the you got back to your hotel or your friend's place or whatever, and I thought it was rather good. But the one thing I know you said is, yeah, Antifa was kind of there, but they weren't really, you know, there. They weren't really the ones doing it. It seemed like it was just people being crazy, getting a little carried away. But yeah, then we have Osama here. You mean to tell me I could have just walked up to the door?
I mean, apparently so.
All right. And then we have this. The old DiCaprio meme. It's probably one of my favorites.
That is amazing.
Yeah, I know. The Photoshops are quite brilliant. I don't make these memes, guys. I just mime them. I used to get a lot from your Discord server, but I see you have stripped that down some.
A little bit, but if you follow the server links, the memeing continues.
Oh, okay. I'll have to get into that then. So, violent terrorist, peaceful protester. We don't get too spicy, folks. Just ride the line.
Spicy enough.
Yes, just ride the line. Twitter is a private company and makes its own decisions. Restaurants must remain closed until the government says so. Democrats. I haven't seen the sweating decision guy in a long time. Let's see here. Bro, you seeing this? Hold up, I got a line.
So the Hill the other day put out an article that was like, Kim Jong-un says he's going to destroy the United States. I was like, by what? Just sitting in North Korea and waiting for us to kill each other?
Yeah, right. I mean, North Korea, I don't see as much of a threat to us. Maybe some of their locals there, maybe to South Korea, but they're pretty much completely impoverished. When people defect to South Korea, they gain massive amounts of weight after they start eating food. I mean,
weird. It turns out this non-starvation thing makes you fat if you're not used to it.
Right. Let's see here. It says, when my friends switch back from being infectious disease experts to constitutional scholars again.
I feel like this meme is about me some days, right? Because about half the time I'm sitting there discussing what's in the Constitution, how things are supposed to work, and then we move over to the stupid virus, and I'm like, look, this has been in epidemiology since 1901.
Yeah, no, man, I do the same thing, especially having some background and medical training, and it's just like, this is the stuff that we're doing is absolutely insane, and everyone should know better. And if you don't, you're a bootlicker, I guess. I don't know what to say. You like authority. That's all I'm saying. Is this still funny?
Well, I mean, it was funnier than the first one.
Yeah. All right. Don't want my NSA observers to get here and cut off our stream.
Oh, I'm sure I brought my feds with me.
Yeah. The left says corrupt billionaires are the problem. The right says corrupt government is the problem. And I'm here like, you do realize corrupt billionaires are running the corrupt government, right? I mean,
it's just the millionaires.
The millionaires and the billionaires. No, well, I'm a millionaire, so it's just the billionaires.
The millionaires and billionaires.
Oh God, I'd love that guy if he had no power at all.
He's a laugh riot. There was a thing for a while, a Twitter account. I'm not really on Twitter much. Basically, I use it for news sourcing sometimes. But there's a Twitter account that was like Bernie, like funny sayings, and he was like, it was stuff like, coffee's just hot bean juice.
Yeah. Didn't that account get banned?
It probably did, but yeah, that's the only one I can remember off the top of my head. But yeah, it was like coffee's just hot bean juice with that Brooklyn Jewish accent. Here we have Twitter's new banner. We got silencing conservative. Google, Amazon, Twitter, and Facebook. How can you tell the truth is being told? Facebook blocks it, Twitter bans it, Google hides it, YouTube deletes it, government censors it, and the media never mentions it. Pretty much.
Take that, put me on it, make the advertisement for the stream.
Well, I can get it to your folks, Don, so we can share it around. If big tech shut down Parler, then why don't they shut down child porn?
Ooh.
Priorities.
Priorities, that's right. Think different, and you'll be deleted. I'm glad I'm getting you to laugh, Don, because after I watched your stream this morning, I could tell you were not in a good place, and I get it. I understand. I'm actually pretty joyful right now with things. I know that they're not great, but I don't know. Trying to be optimistic.
I am either, and by the way, I get both of these in the same day. I am either the perpetual white pill or the most black pilled person on the internet, and sometimes for the same statement.
Right. Here it says, obviously, let me get this straight. The person with the nuclear codes has been deemed too dangerous to have a Twitter account. Did anyone ever think any of this through? I mean,
oh, see, that just makes me want him to just nuke Frisco.
California.
Yeah, and nothing of value was lost. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I've never been. In fact, the first time I was at the West Coast, we were in Washington State, and that was just this past summer for a wedding, a friend's wedding. And we were in this very remote, secluded location, and it was awesome. But we were also with a bunch of liberty-minded folk. The whole Seattle scene, we kind of completely that.
You didn't want to go down there and meet some nice local hobos, and
we went to SeaTac because we were at the airport, but that was it. It says free speech should be protected no matter what. This is from Luke Rakowski from We Are Change. Luke does a good job, though. I like him a lot. So we got Amazon, Google, Apple. Free exchange of information on the internet. Waiting for daddy to come home.
Feminism for the internet.
Yeah. Breaking. Trump supporters banned from owning pigeons in case they try to communicate with one another. Oh, no joke, though. This is funny that this came up because no joke. I've been working like kind of quietly on this kind of dystopian novel. And one of the things I was going to use was like liberty-minded people using carrier pigeons. And then this meme came out.
So I run side server thing for exactly this kind of reason, right? And people are like, all right, so maybe we should get ham radio licenses. And I'm like, well, you're just telling the feds who you are anyway. And yeah, seriously, I think we're about at the point where this is the next discussion of what communication will be.
Yeah, right. I said, you know what would be interesting is just use the mail. Because
Right.
they can't really go through your mail. I mean, they can x-ray boxes and stuff, but letters can't really see that. But I'm sure they'll find a way if that ends up being the case.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Of course, here we have Jack.
Oh, that's spicy. Oh.
Thank you, 4chan.
Yeah, right. Like I said, I don't make the memes. I just mime them. Or mine them. Mine, whatever.
Yeah, same thing.
If I can speak today. If you strike me down, I will become more powerful than you could possibly imagine.
Oh, God. How do we get to banning this guy off the internet? It's like the humongous thing.
This guy is the guy that woke me up in my early 20s to coming over to, I was kind of like a run-of-the-mill conservative. Like, I was basically a neocon and didn't know it because I didn't know the damn difference. Ron Paul's great. Every book he has is amazing. And if people read Ron Paul, they would be far more informed about how the world actually works.
Oh, man. If I could get people to sufficiently understand supply and demand, I'd call it a win.
What do you mean? Stuff just appears, Don.
There is a supply and people want it. Duh, supply and demand.
Scarcity is not real. That's just a made-up thing. Okay. All right. At least I'm not a fascist. Fascism is right-wing belief.
What is that Stone Toss comic? Like, I'm for human rights and the betterment of humanity. As they're putting the blindfold on the guy, oh, thank God, I was worried for a minute.
Right. I like this. Little Rick and Morty. When libtards tell me how great socialism is, well, that sounds like slavery with extra steps. I mean,
yes.
it is, guys. It is absolutely slavery. Communism is slavery. Speaking of which, when the debt slaves are arguing about who gets to run the plantation. Man.
Oh, the Fed.
Yeah. Biden is back. Syrian children. Oh, God. Yeah. Oh. It'll be happening, guys. He'll be the best president ever because he'll be killing Middle Eastern children.
It's so funny because for so many years, well, Bush just wanted to kill brown people. Like, okay, fine. Yeah, there's wars in the Middle East. You disagree with him. I got it. And then all of a sudden we get back to the left and they're like, we haven't killed anybody in the Middle East for a while.
Right. The one time they were all about Trump, the media was like, ooh, Trump's good. Was when he was talking about bombing Syria or something.
Yeah.
And then he didn't do it.
Well, no, he dropped, was it 50-something Tomahawks on an empty airfield that he had called multiple hours in advance and told them to evacuate.
Right. I actually really, I'm a pretty anti-war guy, but I really liked a lot of his military moves. I thought they were very strategically done. I thought they were very well placed. I thought when Iran started messing with us, he did the right thing, very strategic. Don't have to go invade an entire country. And by the way, folks, if you don't know this, invading Iran, that ain't going to work. It ain't ever going to happen. It's never been taken. It is swamp and mountain. That is Iran.
Yeah, it's the Himalayas and Afghanistan problem all over again, right?
Yep.
Where we got them, we routed them. Where does this tunnel go? Damn it.
All right, let's see here. Everyone, thank God 2020 is over. I didn't hear no bell. Everybody loves Randy. Randy's going to be the best character on South Park.
Oh man, I mean, the I thought this was America memes are equally great.
Yeah. It was quite amusing to me to watch people be like, "Oh yeah, 2020's over. It's been such a horrible year," and I'm like, wait for the next 4.
Yeah, it's not looking good,
folks.
As soon as we were talking back in October, November timeframe, they're like, "Oh yeah, the lockdowns are going to last till 2022," and everybody was like, "Yes, 2020 is finally over." And I went, "Why are you celebrating? You should know what's coming by now."
Yeah. Well, especially if you're paying attention, you understand stuff like the Great Reset, which will be coming, folks. Like, you cannot have just about every world leader talking about it and think it's not going to happen. This is how these things work. And then, so on my channel, my personal channel, All Minus One, instead of this live show, I keep things separate for reasons. In any case, I did a video and I was talking about the Great Reset, and I was looking for an image. And so I'm going through image files, and I'm finding like Anne Arundel County, Maryland. I grew up in Maryland originally. Anne Arundel County, Maryland, their county government has a whole thing about how we can build back better in the Great Reset. I'm like, this is county government. This is insane.
Yeah, it is freaking everywhere. It is incredible how everywhere it is. Like I right after Biden put that thing up and I started watching everybody, oh, lol, he's just a plagiarist. And I went, every major government on planet Earth is talking about Build Back Better. And you think this is about plagiarism? What?
That's what Tim Pool was saying. And I like Tim, but I also get the criticisms of Tim. But that's what he was saying. And I'm sitting there like yelling at the screen, being like, Tim, it's time to put on the tinfoil, buddy. It's time to get into the conspiracy theory, because it ain't conspiracy theory. It's conspiracy fact. They talk about it openly. Like, it's all over the place.
After a certain point, it's like, well, what do they need to do? Mail you a signed affidavit or something where they're like, look, Tim, it's real, dude. Like, please tell people it's real. What are we waiting on?
You can give me a second, guys. I'm going to exchange chairs with my wife. I got a hard metal chair, and she's got a sweet, cushy chair. So,
heyo.
Well, while Bill's trading chairs, I guess I should point about Tim Pool. I did my impression of him last week. I wore my beanie. But yeah, you're right. Like these guys, I don't know if they're just trying to be like middle of the road type and not say anything too extreme. But at what point do you say, dude, like this is happening? Like,
I don't know. I think the problem is that Alex Jones talked about it first, and now everybody's worried.
Yeah.
But Alex, man, he doesn't always get it right, but he says a lot of truth too. I'm not. I watch when I used to watch Alex. Used to watch him more for the entertainment factor, but
I've been saying for about a year now, 2020 is the year of Alex Jones was right about everything.
Yeah, right.
Like, I'm just waiting for the fish people.
The fish people, yes. All right, let's keep moving, guys. We got a few more. So when she goes through your phone, but all she finds is taxation and stuff.
This is the wife right here. That's who this meme is about.
All right, this one might be a little hard to see, but it says, "Over your shoulder, you must watch."
Yeah.
Listen to Yoda, except for in the last Star Wars trilogy movies, because they suck and they should be destroyed and burned and never watched again.
It's sad that they only made 3 Star Wars movies. It seems like there could have been more there.
Yeah, right. Oh, and this is just rando. What in the
fuck?
Is this real or a meme?
Yeah, a meme in itself. It's just absolutely insane. All right, last few coming up. It's 2032. The globalists unleash their clone army to enslave the Earth, but a leader rises up to unite mankind for one last stand. They're turning the frogs gay. Man.
Oh man, I should have sent you guys that before we did this.
What, turning the frogs gay?
So there's a video of me saying that, and it fades to Alex Jones saying that.
His new one, the last time he was on Tim Pool, was "I'm a gorilla." He just kept repeating it over and over again. I'm like, dude, when did you smoke before you came on the show?
Right? Like you've been hanging out with Joe Rogan again? What the hell, man?
Yeah. And then we can't have a Memecast news without a reference to old Michael Obama. Michelle Obama is a man. What did he say? I don't know. Something about Barack being gay. And then we have, lastly but not least, Amen and a woman.
Woo! We've had a tranny Michelle Obama meme for like the past 5 weeks on every single
as you should.
I try to get one in there most streams. Yeah.
I support and condone this move.
And we just got kicked off YouTube.
Yeah, well, me too.
All right, Tank, go ahead and play the that outro there. Well, now I can look at the chat a little bit. Thanks for watching. We got 27 live viewers, which is a big show for us. Got a couple subs over on D Live, 24 viewers over there. So we appreciate it. Don't forget to like us, share, subscribe, all that stuff. Help us grow because we want to grow communities of liberty-minded folk. And it's probably the most important thing I think we can do right now.
You're not wrong.
Yeah, we'll get into that, Don. I want to hear, I've heard it before, but your thoughts on the Capitol insurrection, as they call it. And I know you were there.
I was.
And you're going back for the inauguration as a very brave man, in my opinion.
I am indeed, as things stand, though. I on that subject, my DMs are full of people being like, dude, don't go. So I don't know. I have to be in DC for other reasons. No, I didn't get arrested, as much as that was out there for a long time. No, I was not in the Capitol building, feds. I was just physically in DC. There's a bunch of stuff that has gone on about this, though. Like, you know, everybody debating whether or not barricades and things came down before Trump stopped speaking. They did. I was over at the Capitol building at the time, and they were definitely over there in front of the Capitol building beyond barricades well before Trump was done speaking. For the most part, all I did was get pepper sprayed. A lot. Like a ton.
I worked in corrections for 13 years, so that's like that's par for the course. I don't know. I don't think pepper spray is that bad. Other than the burning eyes.
So I'm generally with you. I mean, it's been like since my first gas chamber in the Marine Corps that I had a real problem with pepper spray. For the first time in I don't even know how long, I got pepper sprayed enough that I was nauseous before I was done. And I was like, wow, this hasn't happened since, oh God, I don't even know how long.
The worst thing I think I ever experienced was a pretty intense gas chamber in the Marine Corps, and they made us stand in there for a good 30 seconds or so before we were allowed to come out, and that clears up within 10 minutes, though, whereas pepper spray stays on you. I remember I had an incident. I sprayed somebody. I don't remember why. I don't remember the specific incident, and I remember coming home that morning and showering, and it was like, you know, my balls is hot, as Derek Lewis once said. It wasn't fun, and that would be quite often. So, anyways, not to derail your.
Don't worry about it, man. Because it's the same thing, right? You know, I got pepper sprayed, I don't know, like 20 times that day or something. It sucks, right? You know, I don't do it for fun, but it's really not that bad. You know, you see all these people that they get pepper sprayed and they all panic and stuff. And I'm like, come on, it's okay. It sucks, whatever. But that shower later, man.
Yeah.
Look, everything from here down is on fire. And that goes exactly like you think it does.
Yeah. They don't tell you when you've been sprayed that, when you get in some water, it's going to, refire up. You got to figure that out on your own.
Oh yeah. Well, if you take a hot shower, right, it re-aerosolizes in the steam. Yeah. So it's just everywhere.
What you would really like, if you've never had it, is to be tased. I can tell you that's a fun time.
Oh God.
I have indeed never been tased, but they started out the 6th with OC spray instead of pepper spray, which is the really heavy chemical riot control stuff. And I'd never been OC sprayed before, and I was like, wow, I feel like I just got kicked in the face. It's rough.
Yeah, no doubt. In any case, so your account was you were walking with a group of people. One of the guys threw the barrier, right? And so you guys just kind of kept walking. I was watching I was watching Viva Fry with Robert Barnes on Sunday, and he was talking about that there were very few people actually involved in like any sort of destruction or anything. A lot of people were pulling away. A lot of people were playing around when they were climbing the building. The biggest thing that I gathered from it is, despite all of the narrative, it seemed like the police were really aggressive with you folks.
Oh yeah.
I mean, yeah.
You know, you hear all these people like, oh, if it was black people, then everyone would have been dead. And I'm like, you know what? I've been around Antifa when the cops are pissed at them. And you know, they throw stuff at the cops, they fight the cops, the laser beam thing that's been going around. And we walked past the first set of barricades and I walked up to the second one, and this cop just immediately, as soon as I got there, spray in the face, just that fast. I'm like, wow, well, that escalated quickly. I mean, like, I was pretty prepared to be sprayed today, but I kind of thought we'd go more than 90 seconds.
Yeah, and I would have assumed that they wouldn't have done that right away. And then, of course, they shot a lady, which I have no idea how they can justify that use of force, as there was no imminent threat. And, you know, you're talking from a military, former like law enforcement guy, I you know, private security, all that stuff. I could not see where I would have been justified to do anything like that, like shoot somebody through a glass window and a door.
Yeah. That lady, I'm totally with you, right? Because for all the times that I've sat and listened through, oh my God, they shot an unarmed black man after guy has, you know, a knife or a gun or is just killed 3 people or something stupid. Like, legitimately, this lady jumped on a door. Like, there wasn't a gun somewhere else. There wasn't something else to the story. She jumped on a door and they shot her in the neck for it. I mean, I'm glad they opened an investigation into it, I guess. But, you know, if this was Derek Chauvin, why aren't you in jail already would be the cry.
Yeah. And that's the other thing that I like to make a point of. Look, I don't want anyone to die. I don't really condone violence in any way. I understand why people are frustrated and get violent, though. But what I can't stand is that we basically have seen scumbags over the last year be praised and honored and memorialized as if they are these great bastions of society, when all they are trashy people. And I don't care about their race, ethnicity, whatever. I don't care about that. Their actions is what I care about. And they were horrible people. And like the whole George Floyd thing, I've said time and again, that dude died from fentanyl. He died by his own hands. Maybe the cop shouldn't have knelt on his neck like that for so long.
Well, were you around after McMap became a thing?
Yeah. I was in, I got out in late 03. So I had a short period in Iraq, with stop loss for a little bit. They said mission accomplished and send us home. And then I never, I basically got my fiance pregnant, got married right away, and just never went back in and considered it, but didn't want to, as I mentioned to you before the stream, want to leave my my daughter in the hands of my crazy ex-wife. So
I know that feeling. But the reason I ask about McMap is, like, the first thing they teach you in Tan Belt McNinja is the rear naked choke, right? The rear naked choke is a blood choke that exists for compliance. Or, I mean, presumably you could also be taking down somebody with it. I have seen people taken down with it. It does work. But that's what Derek Chauvin was doing, is a very different, but, same premise kind of blood choke. And so for all of these people who are running around like, oh my God, he crushed his airway. Well, I don't know if any of you have ever done any fighting, but crushing people's airway from the side of somebody's neck means you beheaded them. All right. Like, it's not a viable option.
Yeah, and I'm like, I've been, I don't know, I'm a big like knee on belly, knee on neck kind of guy myself if I'm trying to get control of somebody. Whereas like in like traditional jiu-jitsu, it's a whole nother thing, or Brazilian jiu-jitsu, a lot of times they fight off their back. For me, I like to be mobile, because in like a street scenario or a scenario where you're surrounded by a bunch of people, you get kicked in the head.
Right.
So
fat lot of good it will do you to rear naked choke that guy with 100 people standing around as they stomp you to death. You know,
right, right. But I mean, we watched all the footage. But anyways, aside from all that, like, what was it? Arthur Chu, Sargon had this on his Lotus Eaters podcast, and I actually put a clip of it today because I couldn't find the tweet. I guess it was deleted. But
Yeah.
Arthur Chu, some random dude, was talking about how Ashley, or what's her name? Is it Ashley Babbitt? Did I get that right?
I think it's Ashley, but it's not spelled the way that you think it is.
Okay, that's probably why I'm confused. Yeah. But she's like, good. She's a Nazi. She deserves to be shot. All this kind of stuff. And
Yeah.
I'm like, this woman seemed to be to have honorably served her country. She was frustrated because her voice hasn't been heard, as many people were frustrated. She was allowed probably into that Capitol building to walk through, as we have video footage of. And then she gets shot in the neck, and she's a Nazi. But George Floyd, he's a hero.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
Well, this is, I know, God forbid you have any moral judgment, but like this is the point, is the venerate degeneracy kind of nonsense, right? And I don't care what your definition of degeneracy is. It probably includes stuck a gun in the stomach of a pregnant woman. Like, it's not that doesn't seem far-reaching to me, because anytime you talk about this sort of thing, it's moral authoritarian. Like, no, I'm perfectly happy to let you be a drug-addled, fentanyl screwed up on moron, but don't come complaining to me when you die. Like, if I die of lung cancer in 20 years, I will have zero surprise, literally none. Right.
Right.
I smoke enough for 10 people. It's at least on streams. So, does anyone want to hear that? If I'm over there and I'm 60, like, oh my God, I have lung cancer. Every single person on the internet would show up and go, well, yeah, dumbass.
Yeah. And, oh man, you had me thinking something there and I lost it, which happens all the time. I didn't get a lot of sleep last night either. So which is typical for me. I'm kind of a insomniac. So, I was going to ask you, Don, did you see anybody with weapons? Because that has been reported over and over and over again, and I have seen no footage or any pictures of anybody with weapons. I actually read an article yesterday where a woman said they were armed with lead pipes, which I have seen no evidence of either.
So I have been told by someone who was there with me that after the side of the building I was on was effectively owned by protesters as opposed to cops, somebody climbed up on the scaffolding there and pulled a concealed carry and fired rounds into the air. And that is the closest I have to anything that is confirmation of this happening. But I guess, to be fair, I did see one lady wearing a tack vest that had a mag that had live rounds in it, but that's as close as I get. For everybody else that had a gun was a cop, and oh boy, were they on them quick, because right as soon as we hit that second barricade, there's the little, what do you want to call it? The little overlook right there on the Capitol building. Yeah. And as soon as we hit the second barricade, there was a line of guys up there with M4s. And I was like, what are we doing?
It's probably a good call on your part. Yeah. Well, interesting. We had a guy who was there in our chat. We did a Saturday stream with one of our friends, Kizza GT, who's in our chat right now. But this guy in our chat was there, and he said he heard the shot that killed Ashley Babbitt. And we were asking him about the other people that died and the injuries, because the media has been so vague about them.
Yeah.
He said one was punched by a cop and fell 50 feet. So that was the medical emergency.
I mean, that will do it. Yeah.
Yeah. Which of course the media wouldn't cover that because, well, it's okay to punch a Nazi. Not that anyone liberty-minded has anything to do with Nazism. I don't know how you conflate the two, but I guess when you don't read anything and you're not educated, then you might, and brainwashed, you might do that.
You should ask your co-host, because I bet he knows.
Well, I'm sure he does. Tank does get quiet. He's messing around in the chat there.
So if I mean, I will just run my mouth because I do that. But
Yeah, go for it, man.
straight from Stalinist Russia, this is the combination of capitalist encirclement and the fascists are capitalists. Same game, different year.
Right. Except for if you read anything, the fascists say they reject liberalism, and they meant classical liberalism, that is laissez-faire capitalism. They do reject Bolshevism. They say that they because they don't see the world as just the bourgeois versus the proletariat. But
Yeah,
it's still a centralized authoritarian economy. I mean,
yeah. Well, this was the argument that that Stalin and Hitler effectively had, is that Stalin was like, well, but they still have a market, therefore it's not true socialism. And I was like, oh, so that's where that came from.
Well, I mean, you see this a lot. Communist propaganda, is obviously very effective. I think we could all agree on that for the position we're in now. I don't know if you've ever heard this song, but it was like so I think it came out in the 30s. It's called Party Line, and it's to the tune of My Darling Clementine or whatever. And it's basically how, during the Nazi-Soviet pact, all the communists went from, ooh, boo, fascism to, the Nazis aren't so bad. We don't need a war with these guys. And it just, I mean, it's on a dime. So, I mean, I'm not saying anything that people probably already don't know, but you can't take what these guys take serious. It's like you're talking about, George Floyd and stuff. There's been plenty of times where in the context of police brutality, I brought up stuff like Ruby Ridge. And I've had people that on 1 minute be like, oh, George Floyd was murdered, and then the next minute be like, well, those guys in Ruby Ridge, they had to have some, illegal guns, so it was right for the feds to hike up into the wilderness and kill these guys. So it's all bullshit.
For whenever you get into this conversation, do you know what the illegal gun situation in Ruby Ridge was?
I think he's like, what is a shotgun start off like a 16th of an inch too short or something?
So I'm not even certain that he actually did it.
Oh, yeah.
Because the feds had gone to him because he had unsavory friends and asked him if he could modify a shotgun. He was like, well, yeah, I have a saw. And either he sawed it ever so slightly too short or he agreed to, and the feds' own documents contradict each other on this.
Right.
So who knows? But apparently that was good enough.
Well, I will say that they did exonerate him. He was basically compensated, but he lost his entire family to the feds. I mean, they basically murdered his wife, his son, and
Yeah. And if you notice, no one was calling for no one of any importance was calling for these feds to be, they weren't calling these guys murderers really or anything like that. It was just like, well, this happened. It was kind of a blemish at the time, I guess, on Janet Reno and all that, but you don't hear about it today.
I mean, it's a blemish on Janet Reno insofar as the entire right wing is like, well, we're afraid of getting Waco'd now. But I mean, other than that, what was there's no fallout for this. No charges were laid. Nobody was even fired. I mean, as far as anybody can tell, there wasn't even a reprimand written. Right. So, I mean, a scar only insofar as the right's like, yeah, she sucked. But let's face it, we were never fans of Janet Reno anyway, so nothing was lost.
We got a chatter saying that the guns were just an excuse. The ATF just wanted to murder the dogs.
Well, that is the obvious truth.
That was a big deal for a while, where cops were just being crazy, like in the I would say the early 2010 era, where they were killing dogs like left and right. And man, I don't understand it. Like, why do you have to? Most dogs aren't vicious at all. They're socialized as humans.
It's not any less of a thing. You just have to go rabbit hole YouTube every now and again, and you will find an endless supply of, like, 2019 cops killed dogs compilation, and there's like 50, 60 dogs. And a bunch of these are like, they hop a fence in the middle of a chase and it's nothing even related to the house, and a dog barks at them. So they turn around and cap the dog. And I mean, why do they do this? Look, reasonably speaking, I understand cops don't want to get bit by dogs, but by far more importantly here, there's no recourse. there's no punishment if you shoot a dog, and so why would they stop?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. There's not usually often recourse if you shoot anybody unless you got a certain skin tone.
Well,
And
that helps.
That was kind of my take on the whole. When I first saw the George Floyd tape, I was like, because I too have worked in law enforcement adjacent fields, and they were really concerned with positionless, what we call positional asphyxiation, where you handcuff somebody a certain way, you lay them on their stomach. A lot of times they can choke to death, or at least the risk is there. I don't know how common it actually is. So when I saw that video, I was like, oh shit, that looks like positional asphyxiation. Like that, it looks like the handcuff formation he had was probably outside of policy, and he's probably going to get in trouble for that. Well, then I look up their policy, and they don't have that. That is procedure. The way he acted was procedure. So now, so now I'm thinking, when he gets off the hook, because he likely will, because he's going to say I acted under policy. That's going to be a huge deal. A lot of people will lose their shit.
Because that was my autism with the knee on the neck thing. Is I went, blood chokes are pretty standard things for compliance. So let's go find out. So I pulled up the manual from the Minneapolis PD, and they're like, so apply knee to neck in this fat. And I went, that's it. He's good. No one can touch him for this.
Well, for people that might want to know some biomechanics, martial arts biomechanics, by the way, your knee hinges, right? You have to have your hip over top your knee in order to have your full body weight, your maximum body weight on it. And if you look at the cop, his hips are a little bit further back. He's not putting on a lot of pressure. He's barely holding them down. I got the outrage. Everyone united on it, but of course the left could not unite on it. And then we find out later that of course it was just a big media, circus. And they tried to do it with I can't remember the guy's name anymore because it got shoved under the rug. But they tried to do it right before that with the jogger, right, chased down by the white supremacist.
Yeah,
and there was another one a little bit before that, I think, that basically got
memory hole as well.
They just kept bringing these stories out, and when you have people locked up because of some basic stupid coof pandemic nonsense, they're going to get a little bit irritable.
Yeah.
And I mean, to me, it seemed very, very engineered, not to get all, Minnie Jones on you, but that's the way I see it.
Oh man. So the Arbery case, which is the jogger.
That's who I was talking about. Yes. I couldn't remember the name.
So I mean, they went DA shopping. And they went DA shopping in a place where they should have been able to find one. And even the DAs who were like, I'm normally in for this kind of thing, went, you can't win this case. No.
Yeah. And has anyone even heard? I haven't even followed up on that lately, but has anyone even heard what's going on there?
No. I'm sure that they too are sitting around awaiting trial because these things take time, which, by the way, is the thing that the left really hates. It's like, well, we should have just built some gallows and strung them up. I don't know if you know this, but there's like courts and laws and things. No.
Yeah, it's weird how there's this selective lynching mentality on the left about, if the feds go in and kill a bunch of guys at Ruby Ridge, well, whatever. But, if, a fentanyl addict gets killed in the street, accidentally, then, he needs to be hung by his neck instantly.
Yeah. Well, it's, there's a lot of, you go read Lenin, you go read Mao, you go read Stalin, less Stalin because he basically had control of Russia, but, you go listen to the Yuri interviews and you get real quick that it's all about destroying social cohesion in any way. And boy, are they on top of that,
Yeah.
Yeah. I was video I put out literally like right before we went live, about an hour or so over on All Minus One. I was talking about Milan Kundera, who wrote about the Czech Republic when it became communist and how that they liquidated the people by erasing their history and rewriting it. What are we watching now? What do we see? This has been going on for a very, very, very long time in the United States. We're here because of 100 years of this nonsense. I keep telling people that the Republic died back with FDR. We became a progressive nation back then. We became a globalist nation. And in World War II, or after World War II, we became the global power. We then were basically the military arm of the UN and the big bankers and all the people that pull the strings behind the scenes, you know. Yeah.
I don't know. Have you been around long enough that you caught the old UN streams? Because this is a thing that's been driving me nuts.
I know you've
talked
about the commie ways of the UN before. I don't always get to catch your show, but I know you talk about it because I've seen you talk about it before. So
yeah, so a while back, I went into a bunch of depth about it. And, I had some people I know contact me and be like, Don, the UN aren't communists. And I went, I just went over their entire charter of human rights. And it's, I swear to God, I don't know how to tell you this. It is the Communist Manifesto boiled down to bullet points. What do you think that is? Well, I mean, just because FDR's crazy commie / fashy wife was involved in it, and who else was involved? And I went, Stalin. Stalin was the other major power that wrote the UN Charter of Human Rights, man. And he was like, well, I guess you can't really argue with that.
Well, and you start getting in, what is a human right according to the UN? Well, you have a right to housing. No, you don't. Like,
oh yeah.
Who gives you, this is, I think, a really good argument that Tim Pool makes, but like, who gives you your rights when you're out in the middle of nowhere all by yourself? I mean, I have survival skills, so I can do that. Most of you folks can't. You don't know how. I mean,
right. The almighty cream corn gave me my rights there.
Yeah. And so I'm a negative rights guy, obviously. I believe that there are certain things. I own myself, I own my property, and I have the right to do whatever I want as long as it's not hurting you. But
seems simple enough.
Right. In positive rights, as far as the commie rights, the right to housing, the right to food, the right to all that those are all just means to slavery.
Yeah.
So,
well, it's you have trouble convincing people of that because you get this thing where, we live in a first world nation. Therefore, there should be a minimum level of subsistence, right? Because this is, no matter how they frame the argument, that's always where it gets back to, right? Well, we shouldn't have people starving in the streets. Yes, you are correct. The fattest nation on earth that earth has ever seen should not, and turns out does not have people starving in the streets. Just doesn't happen. I don't know. I don't know how to tell you this. We have morbidly obese homeless people with iPhones.
Yeah.
Go to Africa and explain to them how poor the morbidly obese person with 500 days worth of their wages is poor. And you just let me know how that goes for you.
Yeah. You got something, Tank?
Well, it just kind of reminds me, it's a little bit off topic, but a lot of these guys that are arguing about how, the United States should be this and should be that and whatever. They tend to, they judge how our country is doing based on material items. I went to Nicaragua back in March for my bachelor party, and Nicaragua is obviously a third world, pretty poor country, but there was a lot more social cohesion and happiness, I feel like, among those people who had much less materially than we do. So, I think it's a mindset that people get wrapped up in, and it's probably a pretty shitty mindset because these material things might not be around forever. And we shouldn't be, tacking our society on that measurement.
Well, there's no, materialism doesn't bring happiness. It actually brings more despair because you have no purpose or meaning in your life. And the thing is that's what Marx did very specifically, is he made the world about materialism. I love it when commies try and tell me that Christianity, that Jesus was basically a communist. And I'm like, Jesus rejected materialism, you idiot, completely. All comforts of the world. He told you to walk willingly to your death. What do you mean?
Well, he was talking about the material deadness.
Right.
Obviously.
He says very specifically that the Son of Man has, or he said, what, birds have nests and foxes have holes, but the Son of Man has nowhere to lay his head. He's saying, I don't even have a house. I just go about. I expect other people to help take care of me, and I help take care of them. And that's not communism. That's like, and frankly, I don't care. You can have your little commune if you want. You can have your communism. Just don't put it on me. Don't make it a system.
Well, and I hate to break it to them, but I've been to China, and there are homeless people there. There's a lot of homeless people there, and they have really no social safety net in a lot of cases. Really, the only thing that's kind of keeping them chug along is that they still have, this familiar. Mao wasn't able to get rid of the Confucianism completely, so they still kind of have this familial piety and social cohesion. But if you don't have that in China, if like your parents are dead or whatever, and you get horribly disfigured in a factory accident, like I saw a guy out there, then you're singing on the street corner begging for money.
Yeah. And look, we're so ridiculously rich of a country that if you are poor enough, and I knew some guys when I was really young, because this is when all the articles about this started coming out, is if you're poor enough, like maybe I should just go be a panhandler. These guys making $50,000-$60,000 a year as a panhandler.
Well, Tank and I talk about it all the time. They're all for the working class, but he brings up the point. He's like, working class people, they don't want any of that stuff. They work. They like working. Work gives you something to do, If one of these communist guys walked up to the working class, was a working class dude like our brother or somebody works in construction, it was like, did you know that actually your boss is stealing your labor value in surplus value called profit? He would be like, what the fuck are you talking about, bro? Like,
shut up and go away.
My boss takes me on a fishing trip every year. Like, I don't give a shit about that.
Exactly.
Like who gives a fuck? And you see this, like, if you guys know your communist history, it was these fucking communist nerds from Moscow who went to Ukraine and told the farmers, you need to become part of the Communist Party because, what the fuck ever their argument was. And these farmers are like, no, I'm fine just farming like I've been for the last, millennia. And of course, then they got mad and came and took all their grain. So you see how that played out?
Well, there's that. Well, I mean, it's always the same thing, right? Because you find in working class people basically the same thing everywhere throughout all of time. There is some sense of duty to get up in the morning and go make something of yourself. And, okay, it gets phrased differently and whatever. It doesn't really matter. It's always the same thing. Because I have seen, I worked in construction for a while when I was younger, and I knew these kind of commie idiots who would come up and try and sell people on this, and every time it would go something like this: well, if I don't make my way, who will?
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. It's the idea that someone owes you something. I think Abraham Lincoln's arguments against slavery put it pretty concisely in one sentence. It's the idea that I work and you eat. And that's the end of it. And as far as like Christians there's a social gospel, a socialist gospel, any of that kind of stuff. I mean, Paul said very specifically, if you don't work, you don't eat. Mm-hmm. He said, don't be a burden to others.
Well,
it turns out charity, it's talking about people who can't, who aren't able, not people who are able,
Well, so it turns out, by the way, once you give communist powers power, they absolutely believe what Paul said there. Right. Except they're a little more stringent about it. It's not so much you don't work, you don't eat. It's you don't work, we shoot you in the face.
Yeah, just ask the kulaks. Man. Yeah. The only book I've really shill for that I tell people they should read is James Burnham's The Machiavellians. And it's really the only political science book you need to read. And it's funny because basically his argument boils down to constitutions and Magna Cartas and Declaration of Independence and communist manifestos and all this shit are all just words on paper. It's really what people do that matter. And really what these communists are after, and they're talking about, we're going to liberate the working class, yada, yada, yada. Ultimately what it is they're not happy with their life.
And they believe that come the revolution, they can get a nice cushy job in a corner office, running the gulag paperwork or whatever, and they're not going to have to do anything.
Have you seen the Twitter threads about that?
No.
So, and occasionally you get Discord dumps about this sort of thing, but they're all the same. They're all the same. The jobs change a little, but like somebody will start a thread on commie Twitter and it's like, so what are you going to do after the revolution, man? And every single one of them is like, man, I'm going to write slam poetry.
Yeah, like, I've seen that. Yeah.
You're going to be digging holes. That's what you're going to be doing.
Salt mines.
Mm-hmm.
The commune have enough poets.
What's even crazier is they don't understand that even within their communist system, there has to be a market. You just can't get rid of it. And there will always be a free market because black markets will always exist. You can't get rid of it.
Don't you know that's why it wasn't real communism? There was a black market in Russia. That was the problem. If only they could have got rid of the black market, then Stalin was a bad guy and a cynic because reasons, but Stalin was not a cynic.
Well, a lot of people aren't aware either that the only way they could understand the values of anything was to look at capitalist nations like the United States and be like, oh, okay, we're going to price our thing at this point because that's what it's valued as.
There are mountains of paperwork that came out of the Kremlin over the past couple of years that are like, so how do we figure out how to sell grain to the rest of the world? Well, what are the capitalists selling it for? We'll just sell it slightly less than that because capitalists only care about low prices. They almost bankrupt the Soviet Union 2 or 3 times doing this.
Yeah, and that's one of the advantages, I guess, of letting the system burn itself out. I would say is that it eventually will. I'm kind of at this point. I don't mean to be a fatalist or anything, but I think things are just going to go the way they're going to go. I think that the way the powers are entrenched, it's a little bit too difficult to, revolution some time ago, as far as freedom fighters might have worked, but I'm not really sure today in this day and age it's going to work too well. If people want to, defend themselves, that's something different. But the main thing that I see, the one thing that's going to be good is that when they implement all this stuff, if they really do get it to start going here, it's just going to completely go bankrupt eventually, anyways. It always does.
Well, this is
every nation that does this.
There's a couple of things we're talking about there. One is I don't want to. Well, let's face it, I ain't going to live through it. So, my kids,
right, that
shouldn't live in current day Russia, where Putin is back to building strongman Russia memes, as it were, to revitalize the idea of dictatorial power, because I'm not in the slightest surprise that it was Khrushchev shuts down the Soviet Union in just a couple of years. The KGB's running the country. Who knew? Right? Because that's how that sort of thing goes. And, the other side, because I've had a lot of people put that to me, like, well, Don, why don't we just all go vote for Bernie Sanders? Everybody go register as a Democrat right now. We'll go vote for Bernie Sanders for the 2020 election as a year ago. And then we can, we'll just get through it because there's no way that this can last. And that's true. But a lot of us are going to die in the meantime. Even more are going to starve as opposed to get, shot. And on the other side is just as much authoritarianism, but it slowed its roll a little bit insofar as it learned that if you go too hard, too fast, then you can't keep control of it anymore. And the question on whether or not we could all reenact 1776 is going to be much more of an 1861 question. If the military stays entirely on one side, that side wins, just period. Right. We roll, the U.S. Army and the Marine Corps on one side of this discussion, that side loses. Realistically, it's going to fracture because that's what happens. And whoever probably gets more, more skilled is going to win that discussion, but it won't happen in a vacuum. And I see people in other countries being like, lol, America's about to fall. And I'm like, yeah, you think that's great. What country do you live in again? France. So how's the European Union doing? Because
Right.
they're not doing despotism things right now because nobody likes seeing U.S. Marines land on their shores.
This is true. I was one of those shock troops. I can tell you that they're highly feared around the world.
You know.
Well, with this whole thing, for me, I don't want to participate personally. I would like to build communities, whatever. Maybe people want to be defensive. That's fine. I'm not really into the idea of the boog, but I know that all these things are coming.
Yeah.
I feel like they're inevitable. And one of the things that I really see, again, we were talking kind of joking around about it earlier with the Great Reset, is that this is a globalist movement. And I'm seeing, and of course, I have a pretty deep-seated faith. I'm seeing, revelation prophecy coming to fulfillment of global one world government, that kind of stuff. Now, whether people believe in that or not, that's fine, whatever. But that seems to be the case. And so my question then is how do we fight a giant Leviathan like that? Then no matter what, it's going to push toward this thing. And the only thing I think that works is actually ideas. And there have been many revolutions in one form or another that have been peaceful. In fact, the fall of the Soviet Union was the refusal for the military and the people to fight. So with information coming out. So I'd like to get your take on that because we might disagree on some things there, but yeah.
Well, the thing is, with the military out of the Soviet Union started having a problem where it's very hard to get a military to enact force on people that it knows, right? And so this is why, boot camp in the military right now talks about the United States and citizens and, defending the country and these sorts of things, because what you're doing is creating an emotional tie to the people that you're not supposed to ever turn guns on. And in the Soviet Union, they didn't have this problem for a while because it's a big place. And so, the Ukrainian portion of the military won't go execute people in Ukraine. Turns out we've got a Siberian portion of the military. Who cares? And then, as the starvation portion kicks in, people get more desperate, so you get to use it more for a while. But as things start to balance out, you get that same sort of, I like these people because I know them. And more importantly, if you station troops somewhere too long, they get to know people. And you see this in modern day very well, right? Like, I talk occasionally about the little village that was right next to my fire base because we were there for a while and we knew them. And that was that. And they were not bad people. And it's the same sort of shtick. And that's what you need for the military to be unwilling to go after people, right? Like, so if somebody came down and said, blow that village off the face of the earth, would have been like, why? Right? Like, I'm going to need kind of a good reason. Orders or no orders, I'm not just going around randomly executing people. But if you're talking about the whole globe, by the time that you cycle people through the entire globe, that generation of military is dead. They're not, it's certainly out of military fighting age. So you could keep that going in perpetuity. And so the hope that suddenly that stops, I don't think is a particularly good hope, simply because of the way that sort of attachment to people around you goes. In the world of ideas, though, if ideas defeated communism, communism would have died with Karl Marx. He was eminently wrong about everything. Everybody knew he was wrong about everything. When he was writing, every economist on earth was like, look at this retard.
Yeah, I pretty much think Marx is an idiot. One of my things, though, is this isn't about, I think communism's the mask, but it's really about authoritarianism. And in a deeper way, it's about the human soul, right? Like, who wants to tell who what to do, who wants to be free, and who wants to be a sheep. Because a lot of people, they like the idea of just being told what to do. I don't get it. I have no idea. I'm a rebellious spirit, so I have no clue why anyone would want to be told what to do constantly. But some people do.
You know what comes with kind of rebellious spirit is taking your licks along the way. Right?
Yes.
Because you go do something that's absurd, we'll say. We all tend to be mouthy, right? At least a little bit. And look, I remember plenty of times, you say that to a corporal, someone's going to kill you. Yeah, said it to a corporal, and sure, you better believe it went exactly like you think it did, right? But that's how this goes. Is at some point you go, well, is it worth the price becomes a question for you. And for some people, every price is too high, right? They want to pay nothing. And the trade that they make for that is that they will take the security, right? So I should never have to pay for anything. And as long as I never have to pay for anything, no matter what's going on, it's fine. And not pay as in dollars, but pay as in, responsibility exists.
Yes.
So, and though that's what you're dealing with, right? And these people are all the same in this. I did a stream a while back called, let's talk about the left or something like that. And a bunch of leftists showed up who were like, oh, you're a retard. You have no idea, what you're talking about. And I went, you're stupid. And they went, see, the only thing you can do is call me stupid. How dare you call me stupid? And I went, see, you don't want to pay the price. Even just me calling you stupid.
Well, this is why a lot of people follow you, Don. I like you. I enjoy your show because you have these little, perspectives that other people aren't bringing about. And I mean, I can see that position with people. Interesting. You're talking about corporals and all. I had some Marines that when I first got in Iraq, that were kind of their boots basically. And for anyone who isn't in the military or Marine Corps jargon, where boots someone fresh out of boot camp.
Yeah.
And usually you're called a boot for like the first 2 years you're in, depending on what unit you're in. So,
and then a master sergeant comes by and calls the entire unit boots.
Right. In any case, I had these kids. They ran off to the head or something. We're in the middle of Iraq. The war had just started, and they left their rifles behind. And of course, I was a team leader. My squad leader's like. He's like, you need to get your freaking team squared away. They just throw a ball. And I'm like, okay, cool. And I'm like, you come here. There's two guys, just completely idiotic. And I'm like, I'm not much of a yeller. I yell on occasion, but I'm like, you realize we're in a combat zone, right? Rifles around. I'm like, go find a saw. Go find a saw right now. And because they were just riflemen, they didn't have a saw, and saws are heavy. Saws are fun. And so I ensued about 30 minutes of rifle PT on them and,
with saws.
Yeah. And then my commanding officer walked by, and my CO, and he's like, Corporal, what are you doing? And I said, oh, I'm just doing a little weapon discipline education, sir, or something like that, some nonsense. And he's like, all right. He's like, it's hot out here, so don't get too carried away. Carry on. And just done with it, because that's how things go. And if you're not a screw up, you don't get yelled at a lot in the military. You get praised. They put you in good positions. There's a lot of nonsense to it, but
yes, there's a lot of nonsense. Yeah. But this is a thing that I think people don't understand, and specifically the kind of people that we're talking about here, right? Because you hear this all the time out of people like, man, you're in the Marine Corps. They must have just yelled at you every day. And I was like, yeah, they did for 13 weeks.
Yes. Yeah.
And then nobody yells at you ever again unless you're too far away to hear them. Right.
Or you're in a gunfight or something,
Right.
Yeah. I don't think they do understand. And don't get me wrong. I've chewed some butts before, but very rarely, because it was just so much easier to just be like, all right, go do this stupid task.
Right.
And I'm a big fan of rifle PT with saws. So it's a good form of punishment.
I mean, it'll wake you up in the morning.
Yeah. Yeah, especially when I'm like, all right, just hold it. If anyone doesn't know, a saw is about 20 some odd pounds. I don't remember the full nomenclature, but
well, these days it's all different numbers because of parasaws and which part of the parasaw.
Yeah. I'm back, and literally we were just getting digi camis and and I have old woodland camis when I was in, so I'm very old school. We still had flak vests. We were just switching over to the Molly plate carriers and all that stuff. So, yeah, I despite my youthful good looks, I am old as balls. So, in any case,
that's funny. I want to say that you made some reference to how old you are, and we are roughly the same age.
I'll be 40 next month, Don. So,
that was it. You're coming up on 4. Yeah. So, next month. Yeah. So I'll be 37 next month.
Okay. Well, that makes Tank the baby, but he's not far behind.
I'm 19 years old, sir.
For the 8th time, I'm 19.
No, it's funny too because most of the streamers out there these days are either in their early 20s or maybe early 30s at best. It seems, or the ones who are very popular, famous. I don't see too many that are older these days. Yeah, it's
there's a weird thing because there's a bunch of us that grew up like right around the internet becoming a thing in existence, and we're all the old people of the internet now, which is not even a term I could have imagined when the internet became a thing. But other than that, it is a bunch of 16 to 20-year-olds, or however old Ryan's toy review kid is now.
Well, I think a lot of that's what propagates some of this nonsense too, that because these kids are young, they haven't really been educated, they're indoctrinated, they haven't read anything. And then they start being media personalities all of a sudden. I mean, and it just continues the propaganda. It continues the lies.
You see this with celebrities of all kinds of age, where they don't really feel like they worked for what they have, and it's pretty obvious, right? Where like, well, man, I just I came to Hollywood and then I became. Thank you. That was the piece of chat that needed to be put on screen. I came to Hollywood and then I was a multi-millionaire and I never really had to work for it. So see, you don't actually have to work to be able to get along in life. And I'm like, there's like maybe a couple hundred of you at any given time. Like society can literally only support so many of you ever for any reason.
Well, the other thing is, and I'm gonna paraphrase my Uncle Ted Kaczynski. You need to work, and I think that's why a lot of people don't like. I guess there's this idea that since we're moving so far ahead with technology and society that we should just eliminate work, but you need to get outside and do things with your hands, especially men. You're going to feel better for it. It's going to be good. Some of the most well-adjusted people you'll meet in society are dudes that wrestled in high school and went and worked in construction.
Yeah.
And
it's hard to throw them off their game.
Yeah.
Well, I mean that's the Andrew Yang shtick, right? Man, we'll totally just have universal basic income, man. And everybody in the world treated that like it was a great idea. And the first time I heard it, I think I about blew a gasket, and I went, "That's the short road to communism." No. And, I said that on stream and my entire chat was like, "What are you talking about?" And I was like, well, if you give everyone $1,000 a month, what stops the next politician from saying $1,500 a month? And the next one for saying $2,000 and $3,000 and $5,000 and $20,000. And they went, well, why would they do that? And I went, because when you give people money, they like it. Yeah. And then they vote for you. I mean, this is literally what Bernie's been doing his entire career. I'll give you free stuff.
Well, we saw this with the Ukrainian miners too, where they wanted pay raises, their minimum wage upped. And all that happened was they essentially started inflating the economy because as their minimum wage went up, then the prices of goods went up. And then it just is, perpetual cycle of this thing. And that is usually my first argument about the universal basic income is when you give everyone $1,000, $1,000 isn't worth $1,000 anymore.
Yeah, right.
The scarcity is what provides value. And And it's funny because I have a lot of Soviet friends who used to live in the former Soviet bloc, because I when I was like 24 or whatever, got into the whole kettlebell thing, was a kettlebell instructor way back when, and got in the Russian martial arts. In fact, one of the guys for my 40th birthday, I get to go do some pretty cool training with some Navy SEALs and stuff. And one of my buddies, who's a combat instructor, is from Russia. We're gonna be down in Florida shooting some guns and doing some jujitsu. Elliot Hulse is going to be there.
I need to have your 40th birthday. Jesus.
Yeah, man. I told my wife, I said, I think it's a little bit too expensive. Actually, the price isn't that bad. If you weren't done, I'll send you a link.
Send me a link.
Yeah, man. Yeah. But the price wasn't that bad. But I was like, but we got to be saving up, and we're having a baby too. My wife is old Prager's right now. And she's like, yeah, but your 40th birthday, you only get it once in a lifetime. And I'm like, okay.
Whatever excuse you find acceptable. Yeah, let's do that.
It's just getting the ammunition to go, which I'm still waiting on coming in. Yeah.
Good luck.
No, I have ammunition ordered. It's just a matter of, I have my own stock, but I don't want to use what I have, right? And be
I know that feeling too.
Right, have nothing left after you get done training. Yeah, not good.
Yeah, I'd like to get Don's opinion on this. This is something that I've been talking to people about recently. So of course, I guess everyone here is familiar with the ever-present FUD.
Yeah.
And so I get a lot of guys, especially like my dad's age or my dad in general. He's guilty of this, and he's like, "Oh, we're gonna have to fight, the Democrats, whatever." Fed posting basically. And my dad's got a lot of guns. It is what it is. But I'm like, Dad, you've got a lot of guns, but you're just one guy, and you're not really in shape. So, what do you think's going to happen? And so I've been kind of trying to put this idea in a lot of my friends' heads, like we need to get together and do some stuff together, and realize that we're just going to have to be we're going to be 20 dudes that we can rely on, and
Squad tactics are not that difficult, but you do have to build your team up. Back when I used to do CQB stuff on the regular, when I was in the military, we'd use simunitions, and you would watch guys who were new just go to crap immediately as soon as they start getting hit with rounds, not knowing what to do, not covering their sectors of fire. I used to find spots. I'd sit up in the stairwell of a building, and then you could come out the door, and there'd be, yeah. And the thing is there was a danger zone. Don knows what I'm talking about. It's an area that's basically open that you're likely to get fired upon, which is like any wide street would be considered a danger zone.
I was going to say, think road.
Yeah. So I would sit up there, and I would just go bink as they run by, and they'd be like, Where am I getting shot from? Where am I getting shot from? And just bink. But that stuff is invaluable. I remember one of the times I was clearing a house, and I'm clearing this house, and this guy he can see through what's called a mouse hole, which is a little hole in the wall, right? And he's got the M9 Beretta, because we used those back then, but it's with sim rounds. And I turn around to clear these rooms, and as I'm turning to clear this room, I turn around and boom, right through the mouse hole. Gave me a big old cherry right between my goggles and my Kevlar. And invaluable lesson, man, because you're like, ugh.
Wow, I just died.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that stuff. Right.
But to Tank's question, there was a thing for a little while where people would drop by the stream and chat and be like, "Yeah, man, we're gonna have the boog. We're gonna go and we're gonna kill Antifa." And I was like, "There's about 9 million Antifa. How many guys you taking?"
Yeah.
In fact, for that matter, how many rounds are you taking? What you can do? Hump 2,000 rounds over there? You got a minigun that I don't know about? Because, I'm sure you and your one buddy could mow down an entire street worth of Antifa with a minigun. But I don't know if you've ever done a lot of shooting with AR platforms, but you can barely hold the damn thing if you get through even half that many rounds, And
they get hot quick.
Yeah, that's kind of the this earworm I've been trying to get in some of my friends' heads. Because all my friends, they're into guns and stuff. But I'm like, let's say some shit actually pops off, guys. Like, what are we going to do? Most of us are not trained to any specific. We could put some rounds down range, but it's not like tactics. We don't really know. And even in my job, we have to qualify with the firearm. Like, we still don't know tactics. And I've got guys buying. Like my buddy just bought like a Tavor, spent like a shit ton of money. He's like, "Yeah, I got this cool." I'm like, "Yeah, but what are you gonna do, bro? Like, when some shit happens, like you might as well you could have bought 3 AR-15s for that, or a bunch of ammo, or some MREs, or."
I mean, you could buy at least 10 rounds for what you bought a Tavor for.
Yeah.
No,
sorry, Don. I put that link in the chat, in the private chat there, Don, if you want to check it out, man.
And I do.
Yeah. It's not a bad price at all for a 3-day little course.
Oh my God, really?
Yes, my buddy's one of the instructors, Greg Mahovich, in there. But yeah, it's a pretty good price if you can make it to Florida
for 3 days. I mean, that's almost free.
Yeah, no doubt. It's just you have the ammo and all the gear, and can you get your butt to Florida?
Yeah, well, there is that. These days, I don't know. I'm ridiculously booked all the time, so I don't know that I can make my way to anywhere. But
I had to book, I think, 3 or 4 weeks in advance.
Somewhere around there, that's pretty standard, actually. I mean, Sten, who is a freaking superhero, is if not for Sten, I don't know what the hell I would do. I wouldn't have time to do anything. But no, to the point, I keep asking people, how many people do you know, right? Because look, I'm pretty willing to deploy to a war zone with 100, 150 guys, all carrying M16s to 50 cals to howitzers, right? But that's a pretty different scenario than it's like, yeah, man, me and my Call of Duty buddies, we're gonna lay siege to New York City. Like, well, okay, I'll see you on the news in an hour when you get smoked. 40 minutes of which will be travel time.
Yeah, and well, that's. Have you ever read On Killing by Lieutenant Colonel Grossman? Yeah. I agree with some of his arguments, but I really dislike that he's like, at the end of the book, he's like, "In video games are programming children to kill," and I'm like, "You're a moron, dude." Do you know how many times I had to go and snap in like dry fire with a weapon over and over again, repetition, get off of my regular duty when I was in security forces, go down to the shoot house and do transition drills, go out to ranges, like I said, and shoot at moving targets or shoot at each other with sim rounds, that kind of stuff. Like that was thousands of hours I had to put in, and doing this with my thumbs
not the same, it turns out.
This kid slowly getting diabetes from sitting on his ass and playing Call of Duty is going to be your threat.
I'm terrified of that guy. It's that goes around a lot of places. And look, you can make the desensitization argument all you want, but that book came out in like the 80s or something like that. I don't think we were desensitizing people with 80s graphics. That's all I'm saying. But even if that's true, right? Okay, maybe we're minting psychopaths or something, and maybe we could even begin to have that discussion, even though we're not going to. Who cares when they can't do anything? I'm sure you would be the most dangerous person in the world if what you did is go live the military life for a while, right? If what you did is get up every morning, PT your ass off, then go, do some weapons training for a while, then go lift heavy things because that's always some part of military life for some reason, and then go do more weapons training, and then go do after work PT. I'm sure if you're that guy for a couple of years, like, yeah, we should be terrified of you. But while you weigh 900 pounds and you're sitting on the couch eating your 95th bag of Doritos today, I really don't care.
I would take any guy that would want to go and put you through basic squad training and show you how to run different formations and run a range, run a line. And once you start going, I'm up, he sees me, I'm down, and you do that for 600 yards with 40 pounds of gear on you, you're gonna think, oh my gosh, I'm not cut out for this. I promise you. I've ran ranges over and over again to the point, and we're talking about black flag conditions, so over 100 degrees, or where I've had guys fall out from heat cramps and stuff, and we had so much ammunition because our stupid command was like didn't get these ranges booked all year long. So the fiscal year's coming up. If we don't spend it, if we don't shoot it, we're not going to get it next year. So they're like, run it until it's out. And they're like, you all better keep shooting because as long as there's ammo, you're going to keep running. And guys are literally falling out from heat cramps and all kinds of stuff. It's exhausting. It's mentally challenging. And and when bullets start flying back, guys, it's a whole nother ball game. Nother ball game.
Oh yeah. Well, so I had one of those ranges in CAX, right? Because you go to 29 Palms and they for whatever reason, nowhere else in the Marine Corps has gear, but they're like, oh man, you need new rifles, you need just a whole pallet loads of ammo. Yeah, we can give you that. Probably because they're the deployment spin up of the world these days. But we go out to this range, and it's one of these run and gun ranges, right? And there's little what are you, like culverts and stuff that you run in, you take cover, and you're shooting at all the moving targets and what have you. And I go fairly early, and we get to the end of the range, and my boss is one of the my particular staff sergeant is one of the range NCOs. And we get to the end, and I'm like one of the only guys out of ammo. And he goes, you actually shot at all the targets? You actually, did what you were supposed to? And stupid me went, yeah. And he goes, everybody on the line that has ammo, throw it this way. And so I'm just sitting there, and after a certain point, I'm not using the index finger anymore. I just got, weapon in shoulder, and I'm just doing this with the middle finger. Right? And so he goes, well, being as you're like one of the only Marines who made it through this thing without having ammo left over, we're going to run you again. And I'm like, oh man, are you serious? And so sure enough, I'm running this range all day long just because we get to the end, because you have to shoot all the ammo because we don't want to go to the ammo depot and turn it in. And oh my God, go do that and look, this range is only like 6 hours or something that we're out there, but 6 hours of running, rough terrain with a rifle, to the point it feels like your hand's falling off by the time you're out of ammo.
Taxes in 29 Palms, which is a big giant desert. So it's hot. It's very hot.
Oh yeah.
I've never been to a tax, but I've heard plenty of stories about it. So
yeah. And it's and to the I'm up, he sees me, I'm down thing. Oh man, 600 yards. Let's take these guys and go 6 yards.
Right? Yeah. Well, that particular range I was thinking of, we were that's when I was in my security force unit, and so we were down, I think, in AP Hill, Virginia, because we would travel down there because I was stationed in this little air base in Maryland. They're like, no one knows that there's even Marines there, but it's because it's all supposed to be secret stuff. Even though I got a freaking plaque behind me, they gave me with the picture of the airplane on it. Anyway,
that sounds right.
Yeah.
This place doesn't exist except in the awards we give you.
But yeah, I go and you can Google it. It's Takamo aircraft. It's not like it's not all that top secret, but they try and tell you that. Even though it had a secret clearance and all that stuff, that's for certain classified information, obviously. But we go down to this range. It's like August, and of course that's like the hottest part of the summer in Virginia, which is super humid. And like I said, like 100 degrees out. And I finally put my gun on burst, which I never put. I never had ever used
Make
burst.
It stop.
I put it on burst. And my freaking company gunny comes up, slapped me across the head. Boy, you get the thing off! You get the thing off burst stuff right away. And I'm like,
okay.
Okay. And he comes back and he's like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to smack you, but don't want to put that on burst because it'll break down the firing mechanism or something like that. I'm like, I've never heard of this before, but whatever. You know how that goes, man. You get that guy's like there's just stuff. There's stuff in the military where guys are experts on about fake knowledge. Like,
guaranteed. If you asked him about that, there'd have been like a 6-hour history class.
Yeah. And he was a pretty cool dude in general, but like, yeah, man, he slapped me right upside the Kevlar, and I was like, I'm just trying to get rid of these rounds because I don't want to run this thing again.
So
this was like uphill too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So everybody, I think, had the one monstrous black guy, right?
Yeah.
Because there's always one, at least one, right? Because I had 2 or 3, but
do you know who Sergeant Major Archie is?
No.
He was. You should look him up. I'll let you continue in a second. He's a guy that basically got in trouble at Paris Island because there was a guy outside of the Paris Island protesting war or something like that, and he was wearing a campaign cover, and he was the Sergeant Major of Paris Island, and he snatched the guy's campaign cover away, and he got arrested for it or something. That dude, yeah. Sergeant Major Archie, was one of my drill instructors. He was my heavy hat.
I remember the guy who I don't remember if it was a campaign cover or what it was, but there was somebody protesting outside Paris Island, and he yanked it, and he got charged with theft or something stupid. And because they're so freaking expensive, it was not like petty theft. But no, I remember the story because this was the coming home from deployment story. Look, there's going to be war protesters, leave them alone. We actually arrested a sergeant major over this a little while back. But anyway, so everybody's got, the big black guy in their unit, right? And so I go to a saw range because I was a saw gunner right up until we deployed, the time where you might actually want a saw.
Right.
And then an NCO came by and was like, thank you for doing all the machine gun ranges. I'll take that saw now. But I'm at this, I was on Lejeune, and it is equally humid to Virginia and terrible and a horrible place. And no one should ever go there. Yeah. And they have mosquitoes about the size of your head. So I'm out there at this night range for saw gunning. And the mosquitoes are ridiculous. We're all standing around for 8 hours. Cause if you've never been to a Marine Corps range, that's actually what you do, is stand there for 8 hours. And they finally lay me down on the range. You get behind your saw, you get good up and ready to go, nice cheek weld, and you're sitting there waiting for the 9-hour safety brief to end. And the guy next to me, somebody taps him on the shoulder. He gets up, and the dude next to me just walks away, takes a saw with him, but he leaves his belt of ammo. And so big black dude is my particular big black dude is he's like the range safety officer or whatever, range coach, whatever. So he pulls over the other guy's links of saw ammo and just clips it to mine. It just goes, just make sure you get through it all. And I was like, man, this is like 1,000 rounds. Don't get me wrong. It was a big saw range to begin with, but 1,000 rounds, a lot of ammo in a saw. And he was like, I don't know, just make sure you get through it. So I'm sitting over there, and I'm stupid and young and boot. So I'm going at like roughly the rapid rate, right? Through this ammo. And he comes walking by again. And he goes, well, you're not going fast enough. And I went, well, I have an answer to that.
Yeah, right.
And so this saw is getting wild, right? It's just, and a couple of minutes later, he comes running by, and he starts kicking me in the ribs in my zappies. He's like, your barrel's on fire! Your barrel's on fire!
That happens all the time, though. It happens constantly.
I let go, and there's this giant plume of 3 feet of plume of flame off the side of the saw, and I'm like, oh man, I guess I get it. And I look over, and the barrel's starting to tilt down. We might have a problem.
Hot, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a pretty little guy. I'm not that tall, not that big. I'm like 150 pounds. And when I went to infantry school, we qualified on the saw, and I thought they were screwing with me because they gave me the saw, and I guess I had one of the higher scores. And so then I had to go through all of our humps, which they're not that bad. I think they're like 3, 5, and 10 miles or something. I don't remember what they are.
Yeah,
but no, but when you're a boot, that's
they're long.
yeah. Because like a 10-mile hump is like 8 hours or something.
Yeah, it's a day.
Yeah. In any case, I thought they were screwing with me, and then I kind of figured out later on. I was like, oh, it's because I know how to shoot this thing. I can get it on target. No one else could, but. I was like, why are you giving the little guy the saw? Why don't you give that to one of the big guys over there? Give me a little 7-pound M16, please.
Whenever you're ready.
Yeah. But, I was always a fan, though, too, of 203s. Sorry, guys, we didn't mean to come on and reminisce about military stuff.
But it does happen.
This is what happens when you get vets together. I wanted to talk to you a lot about DC, but we covered it, I think. You covered it on your own show. It's whatever. This is what
Ask away if you have a time limitation, by all means. I am fairly certain we can sit around and reminisce about the Marine Corps for about the next 8 hours because that's how that goes.
Right.
So,
I have no real time restrictions. I was told by your scheduler that your wife has to have you done by a certain time.
That is probably true. I'm sure at some point there will start being, I mean, my phone just rang, so I'm sure I should go look. But,
and Tank and I usually start the show an hour later. We were trying to accommodate you, bud. So we start a little early tonight for you.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Well, indeed, carry on. I mean, if you have any question, I mean, I know I ran like an hour and a half stream or something right after DC, but as soon as I got done, I had 10 people be like, "So what happened here?" And I was like, "Man, I should have covered that."
Well, the main thing was I wanted to pick your brain a little. We talked about commie stuff or whatever. I mean, it's a big thing we talk about all the time, of course. And it needs to be talked about because people need to be slapped upside the head about how stupid communism is. It's not cool, guys. Communism is not cool.
You're gonna have a bad time.
Yeah, I like the meme where it's all the commie icons. They're like, communism, it's a party.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a party when people starve to death and start eating children.
Yeah, or bark off trees because
Yeah. In any case, the main thing was I wanted to ask you. I think I already covered was it the police mostly being aggressive, which it appeared to me it was overly aggressive.
Yeah.
Did you see any weapons around? That kind of stuff. I don't know.
So in the world of police aggressiveness, because it just occurs to me, I meant to say something. Not only were they like straight to the M4s, but they were tear gassing and flashbanging like almost instantly. It was ridiculously wild. They, I don't know how many times we've all sat here and watched Antifa halfway burn down a city before their thump, the one thump gun goes off, and then you see the one thing of smoke come down. But there was a guy at one point there, and he was sitting next to. They're not actually flashbangs, but they do that too. But the little grenade with rubber balls all over it, I forget the hell.
Stinger grenade, sting ball grenade, yeah.
And so he's sitting there next to a giant stack of these things, and he click, throw, reach down, grab another one, click, throw. And it was at about that rate where these things are going off maybe 20 seconds apart from each other. And I'm just over, he must have tossed 20 or 30 of them. It was ridiculous. And that was, no particular, at least not that I am aware of, keeping in mind that I was not on the went into the building side of the building. But
right,
honestly,
but fairly tame. There were a few agitators pushing at the police, but
yeah. Well, I mean, don't get me wrong. There were a lot of very angry people there, but this was so aggressive that I literally stopped and had a conversation with a cop in the middle of this giant riot. Right? He's leaning on one of the barricades and he doesn't want to. He's trying to hold it still because they're pulling barricades down. And I just been pepper sprayed a bunch, so I'm kind of just standing there because I still can't see very well. And I went, so DC cops, you guys have a lot of riots, huh? How we doing? And he stops for a minute, and like he's holding on. He's really intense for a minute. He stops. He looks at me. He goes, "You guys are you're doing pretty well." Yeah.
Didn't you say the one guy you went up to, he had an ass baton all by himself, and you're like, "You're alone," and he ran off?
Oh yeah,
like yeah.
That was immediately when the first barricades went down. Is myself and a friend of mine were walking, down those gangways out in front of the Capitol building, and there's this cop, and he's you guys need to get back, and we just kept walking, hands up, walking right. So I'm not a threat to you, but. He's backing up and he's yelling all kinds of weird stuff at us. You need to get back. We're going to do whatever. And by the time we'd made about 3 steps, everyone that was his backup had just turned and run just instantly. And so he's doing the take a couple of steps back at a time thing, going, you need to leave. And he pulls out an ass, flicks it out, and is like, you need to back up right now. I just pointed over his shoulder and I was like, you're alone. He looks over his shoulder and turns around and just books it. Like, Man, there's about 500 people behind me. You hit me with that baton. I'm pretty sure you will regret it. I'm not telling them to beat your ass, but they will.
I watched videos of cops just decking people. It seemed completely unprovoked. And I can tell you right now, when I used to work for the sheriff's department, if I did that to somebody, I'd have been in a lot of trouble.
Gone.
Yeah.
There was a decent amount of that where, people, it's a big, giant, angry protest thing. People just yelling at cops, you piece of shit, blah, 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 whatever, right? It's the way that angry people get. And the cops would come by and just bear mace the whole crowd because they were getting yelled at. A couple of them reached out and punched people. One of them, like he was your dad or some shit, comes by and, there's a guy yelling, you should be over here. You should be helping us. And the cop goes, get off the barricade. And the guy's leaning over the barricade, right? It's those short bicycle sized, bicycle rack size barricades. And, and he says, the cop comes by and he says, well, how do you like this? And he just picks up the giant can of bear mace and hoses down the whole crowd. And I was like, yeah, gee, I wonder why people are pissed off. Like, I can't think of a reason. You just bear mace like 20 people because one guy was leaning on a barricade in a protest.
Would you describe this protest as mostly peaceful?
Well, I mean, compared to the rest of the summer, it was eminently peaceful.
There were no fires. There was no arson or anything, right? The little bit of looting was like the podium guy and a couple people like defecated or something. Like they took a dump in the hallowed halls, the sacred religious halls of democracy. Yeah, exactly.
I have only heard about that later. Right. But don't get me wrong. I was there for like 6 hours.
Yeah.
So at some point, are there people walking over to the grass taking a piss? Yes, there are. 6 hours is a long time. And realistically, though, they beat this one cop to death has been the cry ever since. But I feel like we would have noticed.
He went back to the police department, from what I understand, and had a heart attack later. I mean,
and that's the thing, right?
Yeah.
Look, for anyone who's not familiar with CASEVAC, right, casualty evacuation, if there's a guy that is beat near to death, you start doing things immediately or they die. That's how it works. And if you don't, then they die. Now, we can argue semantically about whether or not people contributed to his death. You probably shouldn't punch cops, blah, 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 on and on. But if this was as dangerous and horrible as they're making it out, that guy should have been in their casualty collection point, because they definitely had one about 10 feet in front of me. For a whole giant portion of the day, they had a casualty collection point about 10 feet in front of me. And he should have been over there, and he never was. And mostly what they were doing over there is they kept tear gassing the hell out of themselves, and the cops were taking it worse than the crowd. So, I was like, I know before they hand you that, somebody sprayed you with it. You had to know it was coming.
Yeah, well, change of wind direction, stuff like that. By the way, the based plebeian wife says, I'm not the one who buzzed your phone. Just an FYI, that's in the chat.
You are wife. You just sent it to me like 2 hours ago, and it just came in now.
We also got He's Dead Jim gave us a Ninjet on DLive. I don't know what a Ninjet translates to, so thanks anyway, but I don't understand DLive's currency, so whatever.
We don't make any money, but whatever kind of crypto you're giving us that's supposed to be money, trust me, we have no idea how to spend it anyways.
Yeah. So. Well, the Chinese lemon system is confusing. What can I say?
Yeah.
Well, that's all right. The Chinese haggling system is confusing too. So I mean, I've seen that.
Yeah. Oh man, but God, there was something I was going to say. So I should retell Reddy Gets Set Smoke a Cigarette stories.
Well, I was going to ask you what you thought about the security there as normal compared to when you go to DC, because I'm in West Virginia, not far from DC. I met my wife in DC. I know the DC area kind of well. I mean, I don't like to spend a lot of time there, but DC is like one of the most secure cities in got to be in the world. It's heavily
Yeah.
policed. There's a cop on every block normally. Now it's super stupid ramped up because they got all kinds of military in. All the federal buildings have basically federal police in them with metal detectors and whatever else. So, what was your impression about the height of security at the time? Because there's a lot of talk about the security being very laxed as opposed to normal.
So it really was. I've been to a bunch of the last DC protests. It's how about half the channel found me. And all day long, there are cops around when there's a protest in DC. It's just how it is, right? Maybe they're not on every corner, but you will see cops on horses, cops on bikes, cops just walking the street. They're everywhere. And I don't think I saw a cop.
Except for in Anacostia. They're not across the Anacostia River.
Yeah, exactly. But I don't think I saw a cop. I don't think I saw a cop until I hit the Capitol building. Like literally none. Well, that's not true. The ones that were blocking the roads on the way in. And then I don't think I saw another one from the time that I left the Washington Monument until I got to the Capitol building. Because I was there when they arrested somebody for being on the grounds of the Washington Monument, which is just ridiculous, but did actually happen.
Yeah, you said that in your stream. I thought that was very strange.
They came over and said, "Oh, the Washington Monument's closed," and then some guy just went running through it, and they arrested him. And I was like, "Are we doing this now?"
I've never, ever seen it closed.
Exactly, but that's the other thing is that all day long, the only times that I saw cops, it seemed like they were amped. Maybe not trying to start problems, but they were amped. So I get the feeling that they got told something ridiculously crazy was going to happen. Because look, again, for anyone who has just literally no experience with riot control, you don't go straight to ARs for any reason ever. That's just,
you don't even bring them.
Yeah.
You don't bring them because they can get taken away from you. You don't have them there. Yes.
And they were, I mean, we're talking sub 30 minutes. There were guys standing there and they're not up and at you at the ready, but they're, whatever you would call slightly below low ready. And
it's 3/4 ready.
Sure. However, you're not supposed to hold a rifle, but do this. To be fair, they're looking down at you while doing this. So I'm sure it's low ready given the angle of fire. But I was like, those guys are about to friggin' shoot me. So, and there was a bunch of stuff like that. Like, we were there for, I don't know, a couple of hours. And all of a sudden, 100 bike cops come riding up around one side of the Capitol building and run through the trees so they can go reinforce the cops there. And I was like, you could normally find this many cops at a DC protest by stopping to have a sandwich,
Yeah, I that was a big thing, is it didn't look like there was a lot of presence there, and then they've been talking about it since, but they seem super aggressive, especially considering back in June or July, whenever it was, when they were burning down things, burning down the church across the street or looting it from the White House. Was it St. John's or whatever it is? Just fires everywhere, fireworks, all the stuff that they've been doing. And the rhetoric, of course, is well, if this was Black Lives Matter who did this insurrection, they would have rolled in the tanks. And it's like,
well, they didn't.
To me that they practically rolled in the tanks for Trump supporters. I mean, come on, like, wasn't that? I didn't even think that most people were rioting. It looked like it was a very small number of folks.
Oh yeah. Well, that was the other thing. I was having my conversation with this cop, and he said, it's about what I expected. 90% of you guys are here to tell the people behind me that they're assholes, and 10% of you guys are here for a fight. And I said, well, turn around, look behind me. And sure enough, there's 150,000 people within line of sight because I'm at a slightly elevated position there. And most of them are just standing there waving flags, that sort of thing. But, sure enough, the handful that were there for a fight were there for a fight. So,
yeah. And my biggest critique about all that is I know the right is going to be demonized no matter what. The problem is when that happens, when people act like that, then they come after everybody, the innocent as well, and it's not a good thing.
No.
Yeah.
The thing where, you said earlier, the Antifa was there, but they weren't doing most of it. That is very dependent on what time of day you're talking, right?
Yes, they operate at night. Yeah.
Because as soon as about dusk, I started to see guys in black bloc. And they were exactly what you'd expect. They decided that everyone was there for them and that, we were going to have the communist revolution now. And, there's a guy that I was talking to while I was there, and he said, yeah, man, so Trump released that video on Twitter. So I started playing it, just walking around my phone like, hey, Trump said go home. And about 3/4 of the crowd turns around immediately and starts walking out. And there's a couple of guys out front. No, man, F Trump. He's just a piece of crap anyway. And he abandoned you. And, he doesn't matter. And we need to keep going. And I went, oh, so that's where Antifa is. Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
And ridiculously and hilariously is the pro-Trump crowd of the world left. And at this point, the cops are up, pretty well the top of the Capitol building on that side, and have decided pretty clearly that this is their line and they're not going to back up. And I left because I had done logistics things. I brought, food for people and stuff because I was planning on being there like all night long as opposed to till 6. And so I started just handing it out, and I come back from that a little while later, and the cops have moved them all the way back down to off the Capitol building. And so I asked some people about it, and they're like, oh yeah, well, when it was just Antifa up there, the cops just kicked their ass. So apparently
they're probably sick of them by now.
Yeah.
It's funny. My wife and I, a few years back, after we got married, went to a Halloween party at this house she was living in Arlington, and it's like literally right outside of downtown, and it was like right off the highway. Like if there was no traffic, you could be in downtown DC in about 10 minutes. But
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, we were with her former roommates and all, and we came as Antifa as a joke because we didn't have any like real costume stuff. But I have like an old leather jacket and whatever. We went out and bought like a cheap like military like those
bomb helmets that they wear.
Well, it was like Fidel Castro type hat, one of those things.
Gotcha.
Military hats, and just being silly. And we got there, and we're all amongst a bunch of like conservative libertarian people because my wife worked in basically in donations for political orgs prior. And so a lot of those people were all liberty-minded folk. And this one person shows up, and it's some dude dressed as some woman that's supposed to be this communist revolutionary. And all these people, they're young. They're all young folk in their early 20s. They're all kind of freaking out. There's like, we have an actual commie here. And I'm talking to the guy. We shared a couple cigarettes outside. And I'm talking to the guy, and he was like, what are you? And I'm like, I'm Antifa. And he's like, are you really? And I'm like, no, dude, it's Halloween. It's a joke. And he's like, you look just like my friends. And this guy was actually an Antifa member. It's completely cool, whatever. But it was just funny. This really weird kind of exchange. And someone who was a little aggressive with him, he had like a toy gun. And he was like, well, he's trying to teach him some lesson about communism. And he like took his gun away from him or something like that. I don't know. But
and now you know.
All night long, he kept coming up to me and was like, he's like, you're dressed just like my friends. You look just,
yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, dude. Yeah. And we're talking about
have uniforms.
Right. This was like, I don't know, 3 years ago. But a lot of people didn't know about Antifa until this year. It's crazy.
Oh yeah. I talk to people who aren't, very politically aware, right? And they're like, yeah, man, this new Antifa phenomenon. I'm like, new, man, like we're talking World War II Germany. What does new mean to you?
And building up a long time and rebuilding up in Europe. And then, man, they've been really active, at least since 2012 in the US. So, yeah. And I still, like, I have family members who are like, no, it's just an idea. I'm like, oh, can I show you their website? Can I show you their Twitter pages? Can I show you the Project Veritas infiltration? Hell, Steven Crowder infiltrated them back in the day in Berkeley.
Yeah.
So, yeah, just very, very obtuse people. I'll put it that way. They don't understand, I think, what's really going on. And what's up?
A little bit.
Yeah.
On the obtuse subject.
Yeah. Well, I think that's most people. And one of the things that seemed to me to be a good thing with the lockdowns, even though I think everything else about it's ridiculous, is that some people are watching more media content and waking up. But there's also more propaganda than ever.
This is the thing, right? Because I get two kind of answers out of people because they've been paying more attention to media content, is like, oh my god, this virus is the end of the world. And I'm like, is it? I'll tell you what, you just go. This is all I'm going to ask you to go wherever you want, literally anywhere, and find the number of cases and then find the number of deaths and divide one number by the other. And you let me know how that goes. Well, I mean, what does that mean? Like, well, that will tell you the case fatality rate. And it's effectively nothing. And you need to know that. Well, how would I know that? I said, well, just Google case fatality rate, and it will give you a very, divide number of deaths by number of cases to case fatality rate. Well, I don't know if I can do that. You own a smartphone. There's no way you can't do division. Well, I don't know, man. The flip side of that, though, is a bunch of people who have been like, well, things really aren't that bad, Don. You're because I get accused of all kinds of conspiracy theorist, weirdo things every now and again. I had a few of those people come back to me and be like, man, you were really underselling it.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Like, I kind of like that some people are waking up. A lot of people still have their head in the sand or up their own butt because I always think of that South Park episode where everyone's sniffing their own farts or whatever it is. And they're like,
yep.
Oh, yeah. And that's kind of like, I'm like, yeah, that's how most of the people that seem to have the blinders on, they're all a bunch of pretentious pricks, for lack of a better terminology, who are like, oh, what do you mean? We have to do this. The media says, oh, you evil Trump supporters, you free-minded thinking people.
You're all white nationalists. We know because Trump said there was good people on both sides. Oh my God. And I don't even know where to start with you.
Yeah, exactly. And Trump ain't perfect. I was never a big MAGA guy, but I definitely supported him. I thought he did a pretty decent job compared to most presidents in my lifetime. I mean,
this is, though, welcome to one of the trials and tribulations of having been doing this for a few years, because there was a long time there where Trump would do something and whatever it was, I just, well, look, it's good for this reason. This is bad for this reason, etc. And you get, as soon as you say Trump did something right, all of the really diehard Trump supporters on the planet are like, yes, man, totally subscribe to this guy because he's defending Trump. And I'm like, well, it's pretty easy to defend Trump, honestly. The media lies about him every 20 minutes. So, yeah. On the other hand, when you ban bump stocks by executive order, I'm a little less than pleased.
Yeah. Although I think bump stocks are pretty much stupid, but yeah. I mean, I've seen your video on bump stocks, Don.
I was gonna say
I've seen your video. I'm not for automatic fire anyways, unless you have specific, like a crew serve weapon, obviously. A saw's nice, but yeah, otherwise, man, place your shot, save your ammo. Is the way I see it. Yeah.
Well, which one of you, because for anybody who doesn't know, saw gunners run around with 600 to 800 rounds at any given time. If you want full auto fire, I would plan on carrying, for those of you who buy a box of 500, more ammo than that.
Yeah. And you guys, when you use automatic fire, you don't go. It's not that. It's little bursts. You're holding the trigger for 2 or 3 seconds max.
Yeah.
It's very planned. If you're on a crew serve weapon, literally, if you guys don't know what that means, I mean, there's a whole entire crew that works on the weapon, usually 2 to 3 people. And so if you're looking at a 240, which is a medium machine gun, they are, they're put on a tripod and all kinds of stuff. They have to do calculations. There's different kinds of ways you fire it into people. There's defilade, there's enfilade, there's all this other stuff that I've forgotten so long ago, but still sort of remember. And hey, I have all my books. I have all my MCIs, man. I have every single book on tactic I ever got from the military. So that is still there. But yeah, it's not, as I often joke, putting on some kit and being like, "Oh, we're gonna boog."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right on back to the, how many people do you know? Is the second question is, what good are they? Right. Because make no mistake, right? I tell people all the time, L-shaped ambushes are not complicated. And that's true. They're not.
They're not, no.
Like the name tells you what it is. Oh, it's an ambush in the shape of an L. Who knew? And don't get me wrong, in the world of, if I'm driving down the street and I end up in an L-shaped ambush, I am dead. And so I don't really want to be dealing with that. But if we're talking about some sort of long form boog thing, you will need to know things more complicated than an L-shaped ambush.
Well, one of the interesting things is we do have a lot of vets. We do have a lot of vets right now because we have been in these ridiculous wars for the last 20 years. I mean, on top of that, though, what's interesting is during the original revolution, we'd been in war for a long time because of the French and Indian War. So you had a lot of vets. And of course, people, I think, were a little bit more mentally stable and of heartier stock in those days because life was rough.
Wrong. Yeah. It's a fact.
But
I don't want to get up and go to the kitchen to go to the fridge. So I bought a mini fridge and set it on my end table. Like, bro, could you get it any lazier? Like, I mean, please, come on.
Well, Tank and I, if we drink beer on stream, which we do quite often, we do have our little coolers with us, but that's for the sake of the show,
I imagine so, right? Because like there is nothing that streaming is quite so good for streaming as, okay, Chad, I'm going to be getting up and leaving. I'll see you all in 10 minutes, right?
Right. And every now and again we do have to take breaks, but it's just to pee or something, especially if we are drinking.
Yeah.
But
yeah, every time.
I'm also not above drinking warm beer. I've done it on several occasions.
How dare you, sir? This is like
when we were in China, their local beer is like 50 cents for a deuce like 22 ounce, and we would get them and they'd be like room temperature, and we'd just absolutely pound them right there on the street corner because they don't really have open container laws in China because they don't need them because only Americans do that shit. But we did do that shit.
That sounds right to me. Though, you hear this from people. God forbid you're on the internet for more than 5 minutes and you're an American, because then you hear from everybody everywhere. Like, yeah, man, we have all these stupid laws because you dumb Americans came and you visited here and you vacationed here, and I didn't even know what drunk in public was until you got here.
Well, now you know, bitch.
Welcome to America.
Yeah, it was funny. I mean, to be fair, China, and everyone I met in China were great people. But I was there with some dudes who were also vets, and they, as you guys are probably aware, vets tend to drink a lot. And so when we were going around, we met some we were there some Chinese people, and they're like, well, we'll show you around. What do you want to do? And I was like, well, we want to drink. So they took us to a bar that's owned by Russians, and it's like there's this knockoff McDonald's that you have to walk through to get to the staircase to get up to this bar. So we're getting up here and we're getting pretty hammered. And these Chinese girls, they drink like half a beer and they turn like bloodshot red. And then so we're getting like hungry. We're like, hey, let's we want something to eat, but we got these beers. And they're like, well, you can take them with you, like out of the bar. And we're like, are you serious?
Really?
So we're like, so we're like double fisting and like in line downstairs in this fast food restaurant, like beers in our hands, like ordering chicken sandwiches and shit, and just like getting absolutely hammered. Like I puked in the bushes.
Dude, this is how good stories are made.
So, yeah, well, China's pretty dirty anyway, so I didn't feel too bad about it.
Face off.
Yeah, I was on I was on the 22nd MEU. That was the relief MEU that went out for September 11th. It was literally, 2002, right after September 11th. And we got almost no libo. MEUs are usually, or at least back in the day, they were big fun. You get off, you go to all these ports, you get to, drink, you meet girls, you do all that stuff. And we did almost none of that for the whole 6 months, but we did get a few Libo ports, and one of them was Croatia. And Croatia, my friend, is awesome. Split is this little old Roman fortress in Croatia. Supposedly the women there are trash compared to the women in other cities in Croatia, but they were all gorgeous. And we sat at the rugby bar. We would just sit at the rugby bar from like 9 in the morning. We had Cinderella Libo, meaning we had to be back on ship at midnight.
Yeah.
But
sounds right.
From like 9 in the morning until 11 o'clock, we sat at the rugby bar and drank beer and watched hot girls walk by. And that's like all we did. But it was great. We were off ship. We were living life. And I got some pictures from back in the day. Met some Irish teachers on a vacation or holiday, as they call it. And, got to hang out with them, but didn't get lucky. But, whatever. That's how it goes in those days. But yeah, military guys for sure. You got to do something to blow off the steam. And
that's the thing I think nobody gets, right? Because even if you're just sitting around in garrison rotting, somebody is coming by and screwing with you all day long, right?
Hurry up and wait. That's my favorite.
Yeah, and so you get home at the end of the day and you're like, man, we could all get drunk. It's the only discussion that is ever had. Stan, don't apologize to the wife. She'll complain if she feels like it.
Yeah. I mean, that's up to you, Don, whenever you want to go. But I remember we got back from Iraq and everyone was just happy to be back. It's, super irony. I was talking about before we streamed, we was telling you about Connex boxes and air conditioning. I had none of that because I was there first wave. Like I was out in the desert, we living out a couple 100-pound pack and setting up tents and just traveling with the company and going to they're like, go here, go secure this area, go do that, that kind of thing.
Yep.
And I was in first squad, first platoon too. So we got all the missions, like literally if there was a mission, we got it. But we got back into Kuwait to fly home. And the day that we're leaving, all they had were tents set up with racks in them. And the day that we're leaving, we're stacked up to get on the buses to go to the airplanes, and they're installing air conditioning into our tents.
Oh, and that sounds right.
Yeah, right. But in any case, when we got back from Iraq, though, my family came down and visited us and all, and everyone's there and they're there to meet us. And all we're thinking about is man, when is everyone going to be gone? When's my family going to be gone? Because I want to get here. And man, we partied hard, hard at the barracks that night. I mean,
so that right along the same lines, the both best and worst ass chewing I ever got. A friend of mine that I spent like almost the entire MOS school until right before I got out with, went to Japan without me. Right, did the Okinawa nonsense, and when he gets back, not the 2 years, he did like the as a deployment to Okinawa thing. So he was there for 6 months or whatever. And as he gets back, I knew none of his family was going to be there, right? There was going to be literally no one to get him off this bus except me. So I went down there with, I don't know, probably a 12-pack of beer stashed around my person. And so I'm walking through and I'm just calling his name. And eventually he shows up and he's like, hey, man, thanks. Because, nobody was going to be here. And I went, no problem. Walked him about 6 feet away, handed him a beer and went, let's be honest, this is what we're all here for. And so pulled out another beer. So we both started drinking. The next morning, the I don't know, like the battalion sergeant major calls me in. And it's like, what the F are you two doing? And I went, what do you mean, Sergeant Major? And he says, all the families there, you thought that'd be a good time to start getting fucked up? And I was like, well, no, we only drank, a beer there. And then we walked off, got his gear and left. He says, well, okay, that's nice and all. What the hell are you doing there? And I was like, oh, well, none of his family's on this side of the country and they're all kind of poor. So as close as he gets is me. And he was like, don't drink in front of families anymore. Get out.
You get Stin in here apologizing to your wife that he didn't know I was a Marine, but I know that I told him. Don't let him I know. I told him, I said, let Don know I'm a devil dog too. And he's a brother from another mother. I have refrained this entire time from calling you a pogue, though, too, which
as you should.
Quite nice, yes.
As you should. I mean, let's face it. I complain about pogues mercilessly because I hate the real pogues of this world. But every grunt I've ever met, it's like, yeah, like your combat arms. Shut up, pogue.
Well, that's the thing. If you're a grunt, see, you can be combat arms and you aren't necessarily a pogue. But if you're a grunt, you're the least pogue of all pogue.
Right.
I kind of wish had I not been crazy and lovesick and decided to marry a crazy person, I kind of wish I'd stayed in and went a little bit further in my career, but and did like some of the recon stuff and all that, because I did have opportunities, but man, I was getting screwed over the last year and a half I was in big time, and I was like, no.
It's funny how that gets so many of us out, because the first 3 years was like, so let's see how fast we can promote you to staff sergeant, which never materialized, but that was the speech every day.
Don, I missed sergeant on my cutting score the day I was eligible, and I picked up corporal the day I was eligible. I missed sergeant by 10 points, and I missed it because some dude when I was on ship who was in control of the MCIs didn't send it in.
Nice.
My MCIs, that would have put me over, or literally the day before rifle qual, I had to switch to a brand new rifle because I had excessive windage on my dope at the 500-yard range. And that's back in the iron sight days where we didn't have ACOGs and all that cool stuff. You can't have excessive windage on iron sights, guys. And
it becomes kind of a problem right quick.
Yeah. So brand new rifle, brand new trigger pull, got to re-zero it, all that stuff. And so I shot a marksman. I got a pizza box by 1 point. So 1 point would have put me over. And then the cutting score the next month went up 60 points.
Yeah.
Because they were stop lossing people getting ready to send us into Iraq.
Yeah.
So I got out as a corporal, felt like a turd because of it, because I should have been a sergeant. And actually looked into doing private security stuff like 6 months for $160,000 a year of a private security contract. Wouldn't hire me because I wasn't promoted to a sergeant, even though I held platoon sergeant billets. I mean,
that I was, in very similar boat. I didn't get promoted to corporal for, I don't know, 6 or 7 months after I was eligible, because it was the end of the surge, right? And so they're trying to force everybody out. And my cutting score went from about 1,200 to 1,600 to closed in the span of 2 months. And I was like, well, this is very, what the hell, man? And it reopened at something like 1,800. And as soon as it did, I picked up corporal because I had a ridiculous quantity of cutting score in that time. But it was, it just, the joys of this. What can I say?
Yeah. Well, that was my transition between security force, my security force unit, and my when I went to the Fleet Marine Force to go be a real grunt instead of like a highly polished, high speed grunt. I got my 30-day leave cut. So that really pissed me off.
Nice.
Because my new commanding officer decided that we needed to train up the young Marines who had been there for a month or something like that. They needed to be fully trained up in order to replace me. And I'm like, one, I'm the corporal of the guard. I run the site and the facility, and I run my squad, and these guys aren't going to do any of that. So
right.
What the hell?
What do you want me to do? Turn them into staff sergeants tomorrow? Come on, man.
Right. Well, and the other thing was, I didn't do anything. I didn't even go to work for 2 weeks. I literally sat and stayed. I went to the work one night, went down to the site when I was on the guard week, because we alternated guard and training weeks with another platoon. I went down there one night and did nothing but watch HBO all night long and our because we had a pretty nice little setup, but we had a little QRF reaction force building, and so we had one guy there, and then other people were out on post on our site. Well, I'm a senior guy in that unit, and I wasn't going to do anything. I was short timing. So then I get out of that, or I decided I'm not going to do that. I didn't even say anything to my platoon sergeant. He came to me later, and he's like, He's like, you didn't go to on the site last night, did you? And I was like, Steve, screw that. I'm not going out. I'm not doing nothing. You know,
what good is this gonna do?
Right. So for 2 weeks, I literally got up, slept when I want, did whatever, did absolutely nothing. And then I checked out the day before I had to check out. And and then I came home, had 2 weeks of leave, got down to the fleet. It was, I don't remember what the holiday it was. It was it must have been President's Day because it was like a 72 or 96 or something. And it was right around my birthday. So, or MLK, something like that. I don't know. Wait, that's the end of January, isn't it? Either way.
That sounds, though. I mean, that's kind of close.
Either way, I get there because my orders say I have to be there on this date, and they're on a 96, so I can't do anything. I'm like, oh, so I could have wasted another day, didn't have to get here. Then I'm supposed to go to 1-8. Okay. I get my orders, I turn it into the admin people, whatever, and they're like, well, if you go to 1-8, you got to extend for 18 months. And I'm like,
what?
What? Well, why do I have orders from my old unit to this new unit and I have to extend? And they're like, well, if you don't go to 1-8, you can go to 2-6. They leave on float in 3 days. Literally. I went on float in 3 days, no workup, no nothing. Brand new guy in a unit that was top heavy. Literally 60% of the company were corporals or above, 60%. And the reason why is because they all extended so they could go on a second libo float. But guess what? It was right after September 11th. It wasn't no libo.
Yeah, right. Mistakes were made.
Yeah. So that screwed me over, of course. Then I get back. I'm short timing, supposed to have like 9 months left. And they are interviewing people to be in the company office. They're like looking for someone who's short timing. I'm like, I am not a desk jockey. I don't like this kind of stuff. I hate it. I'm not very good. I'm not good with computers. I can't type, blah, 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 blah. And my XO looks me dead in the face and goes, well, if we decide we're going to put you there, we'll put you there. And I was like, oh, that means I got the job. What the hell? And sure enough, I did. Every day I used to hear from the people, put me in headquarters to be an admin, which I hated because I like the field. Everyone else in the infantry hates the field. They complain all day long. They sit in the barracks and play video games all day. They don't do anything unless you're in the field. And they complain all day long about it. And they're like, well, at least when you're in headquarters, you don't have to be you don't have to go to the field. I went to the field every single time, and I was the CO's RTO. And you know how fast my CO was? Way faster than I was. So when we ran a range, I had to be up his butt and suck and win.
This is the thing that got explained to me almost immediately when I got to the Marine Corps, which is second or third field op, right? And my corporal comes by and he goes, in case you haven't figured it out yet, the field is the only place in the Marine Corps where you don't get screwed with. And look, don't get me, it's not like the games stop. It's not like, you're not doing dumb stuff, but you know what you're not doing? Mopping a floor for the 45th time. All right. And if I'm going to be doing one of them, I'll rather not be doing that.
Your wife has given you permission to stay on, by the way, according to the chat, because she knows you miss talking to Marines.
Indeed. I thought I had caught that, but I was looking for a thing. I don't know. Have you seen my tattoo
on your shoulder? I'm the only Marine that has no tattoos, bud. I have no tattoos.
So there's a couple of them. There's some on each shoulder, but there is one that I consistently feel the need to show either guys who are active duty or vets that were ever active duty. And so it is the tattoo-ish, which is nice. Say that now, for obvious reasons, I have met a lot of people, and after you get out, specifically if you got out in the like big stolen valor era, people are like, man, I know this guy and I don't think he was really in, and can you come talk to him and tell me what whether or not you think he was in? And I was like, oh man, I have the ultimate test to tell you whether or not he was in. Because without fail, you show that to vets and they're like, yes, that.
I got I was at a buddy's this weekend, and there was a guy there. He said just got out, and we were talking. He was in the Marine Corps, and I got my little oorah card all the way from 1999. I mean, you can tell that thing's been to the desert and back, and a couple different deserts, because I was up in Djibouti, and which I love saying. But yeah, we were in Djibouti.
That's a good thing to love if you're in these days.
Yeah. In Iraq. We were supposed to go into Afghanistan, actually, which was a fun time because we staged 3 days in a row over and over again after we told we were going to be providing security as the Army changed commands, and it never happened. So I never got any boots on the ground in Afghanistan, but yeah,
see,
whatever.
That's how you build the big stack and look really awesome. You go all the places.
Yeah, yeah, I know. I like, have you ever seen I'm Gonna Get You, Sucker?
No.
Damon Wayans back in the day. Oh man, it was like,
or if I have, it's been since then.
Okay, it's basically the movie that launched In Living Color, the Fox comedy show, skit show.
Yeah.
So there's a badge. These guys are like military vets, and they're both like admin guys or typists or something, and they start going, what are those war medals? And he's like, oh, this one's for like sewing, and this one's for this. People have no clue.
Oh, they really don't, though. I have received the most important thing. I have no idea if this was a thing when you were in, but certainly everywhere I ever went in the Marine Corps, anytime you say anything, somebody says, put yourself in for a NAM. And right as I got out, somebody gave me one. And I was like, for all the things that I've done here in the Marine Corps, first of all, this is the least deserving thing of getting a NAM, just hands down. But second of all, what do I do now? Do I not need to put myself in for a NAM anymore? Oh, the worry not about the wife. The wife is as straightforward as I am most of the time.
Yeah, I figured you kind of gotta be with guys like us, I guess. Well, Tank might need to go around by 9. That is Eastern, because he's got a day job and can't be up all night.
Has a life and things.
Yeah. Yeah, his wife's already been getting mad about us streaming a lot lately. So, but I'm going to be in Florida taking care of, well, I'm doing some training. I also got some family business to take care of down there too. But so I'm going to be not streaming for like 2 weeks. So Tank's wife can,
see that
two solid weeks. Yeah.
That's the vacation. It's all good.
Yeah, exactly.
Realistically though, I know how like his part of this conversation is like, you dumb jarheads, quit telling dumb jarhead stories already.
No, man, I've got a lot of buddies in the Marine Corps. I know how it goes. It's always like this.
He's also
it's always like this.
Yeah, he's also law enforcement adjacent. It's funny because when it's different services too, like you talk a little bit depending, and usually you talk your trash. But it's not like when Marines get together. No Army guys go, oh, I was in the Army. Yeah, I was in the Army too, and talk for hours like this. Like if they did, maybe if they were both 11 Bravos or something like that.
Yeah.
It's combat vets. It's usually less, and but it does happen. Guys with the same MOS talk about whatever happened in their MOS, but you could get the pogiest Marine on the planet to sit down and talk with a Force Recon guy for 6 hours.
You know what I always find rare? I went when the big. I went with a buddy to a friend of his house some years ago to watch the McGregor versus a Mayweather fight, and I got over there, and there was a guy there. He was a Marine, and he was a grunt. He was an 0311. And I was like, I never meet 0311. Right. I don't know any other 0311s. Like, they all must have died or something. They don't exist.
Oh man, I don't know. There's become this thing lately where, and when I say lately, I mean maybe the last year or two, where I run into Marines who were 0311s, and I don't know what the hell has been going on, though. If you've ever heard any of my why I got out of the Marine Corps stories, it's probably related. But they're like, yeah, man, like I don't really like to talk about the Marine Corps or talk to Marines because it was a really bad time. And I'm like, how bad was it? Because Yeah, okay. There are 9 million things that sucked. I did an entire brag, which is a 2-week field op, where effectively all I did was dig sun up to sundown. Like, and make no mistake, I hated every minute of my life during that time. But it was years ago. It's really not that big of a deal anymore. What are you the Marine that we always joke about, the one that was literally eating babies? Because I could see why you wouldn't want to talk about that. But like, that guy doesn't exist. What the hell?
So I got back from Iraq, and I had just started seeing this girl who's now my ex-wife. In any case, I went to go see her, and she had been married to a guy up in Cherry Hill, and so I'm drive up to Havelock, and we go to this bar, and a guy is telling the story at the bar about how he's driving along, and there were dead. He was messed up from Iraq, and there were dead baby parts all over the place, and blah 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 blah. And I say nothing other than, I'm like, really? I was like, I just got back. I didn't see any of that. I said, what? I'm like, what's your MOS? And he's like, I'm admin or something stupid, And I'm like, okay. And he's like, what about you? And I was like, dude, I'm a grunt. I'm an 0311. Like,
Right.
I didn't see anything like that. And
where
and
were
I just
you
kind of left
exactly?
it be. Yeah, I just kind of left it be. But I was like, okay. You get people doing that all the time, and don't get me wrong. Like, I've been shot at and bombed and stuff, but I've never been in a hardcore firefight. I don't make any illusions about any of those things. I've been in other life and death situations though, outside of the military, but those are other stories.
Right. Has the statute of limitations lapsed? What year is it?
Well, I can tell you the second week that I was working private security at a local hospital, I had to wrestle a guy for a police officer's firearm, and we tased him. So I mean, that would be the most recent one. But I kind of went back to that job reluctantly. I didn't want to get back into security work.
You don't say.
Well, I really don't like doing violence, man. Like, I like training and stuff. I don't like having to hurt people. And
you know what's funny about that is that that tends to be the way that this goes, right? Guys who have done some quantity of violence are like, well, yeah, look, I find you trying to kidnap somebody, you will catch a round to the face, but if we could just avoid that, that'd be kind of cool.
Yeah. I mean, I love training, man. I love getting it's such great masculine bonding to like get the crap beat out of you. I'll come home from I haven't trained martial arts really in a couple years, but or at least hardcore. But had done it for like 30 years, so it's not like it's gone,
right?
But like, yeah, you come back from like a week-long training seminar or something like that, you're just covered in bruises. I mean, I've had my eyes split open several times. You get choked out, and it's great. You feel great. You're like, man, this was
so. I know you're listening to this, wife, and I'm going to pause here because a consistent thing that happens is like I got somewhere, I think right now, I show up with, bruises and shit on you, from either horsing around or, you go do some manual labor of any variety and you come back with a bump or a bruise or something. And the wife is like, oh my God, what happened? I'm like, I don't really wasn't that big of a deal. I didn't even know it was there till you pointed it out.
I was, let's see if I can do this on camera. I can't figure out how to get my hand there. Where's that? Almost. It's too hard to look into a camera when everything's reversed and figured out. But I got like this. There it is. Oh, there. Yeah. It looks like a little nothing. I was moving stuff the other day, putting it in a storage unit, and had no idea that I just skinned my hand. And and I look down, I'm like, oh, there's blood. It's that kind of stuff.
That's the kind of thing that normally informs. Why am I all wet? Oh, there's blood everywhere.
Yeah. But I grew up, in the 80s, and we beat each other with sticks, like literally. We would have lightsaber fights with sticks we got from trees and
oh yeah,
all kinds of crazy stuff. I mean,
back when you were allowed to have fun.
Yeah. Well, Tank and I were talking. I think I've told the story on the stream before, but my dad, when I was like 4, used to give me a little pocket knife and I'd like whittle sticks out of it and I'm stabbing myself in the leg with it. My dad had the Gerber Mark IIs, combat knife.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're a knife guy or not. I like knives. So anyways, my dad had like one of these 70s Gerber Mark IIs, which has like much better steel, very nice, unlike the very brittle new ones. And I'm like 4 years old or something, 5 years old maybe. I wasn't in school yet. And we had a big oak tree in our front yard. And somehow he let me play with his knife. I got a hold of it. I'm hacking at the tree, the bark of the tree, like 4 or 5 years old. It bends the blade. He gets mad at me, yells at me because it bent the blade. But my mom is yelling at him, of course, because I'm playing with a combat knife. You know,
I used to do the same, like, those I don't even think they make them anymore, but they used to make plastic buck knives that were, and they're probably about the size of an adult thumb, right? Little tiny things. And it's basically kid's first knife kind of thing. It's a little fold out knife. Yeah. And so I had one of those, and I'm young, of some age that I don't even remember. And I'm we got a big wooden fence, and I'm sitting here, I'm throwing this thing into the fence and going to get it and throwing it into the fence. And I am entirely unpracticed with knives. So at some point I throw this thing and it goes straight down and sticks in my toe.
Oh, nice.
And to this day, I have a split toenail because it just straight on through, and I don't know, maybe when you throw a knife through your toe, I don't know, circa age 6 or 7, you stop worrying about little bumps and bruises,
Well, regardless of how the stream, I thought about it going. I'm glad we're getting along because we've had at least 30 plus some odd viewers this entire time. And we're lucky if we get 5 to 10 on average. So apparently people are quite entertained by this reminiscing. And
chat has this weird thing, my chat, of which I know a lot of chat is, simply because of who was talking earlier. I recognize a lot of names, and somewhere along the way, right at the beginning, someone was like, is the entire chat just plebs? So, but my chat has this thing where, I'm relatively serious all of the time. Because, I talk about some kind of serious shit all day.
Right.
And then go read about it even more. And so they're like, it's good to hear Don laugh ever about anything.
Well, I'm glad, like I said, I could bring some levity to you today, man. Because I did watch your stream this morning. I wasn't able to watch it live, but I did watch it later on. And I could tell you were in a pretty cranky mood. And I know you had another interview this afternoon. I caught the end of.
Yeah.
Hey man, I'm glad to make allies and friends with you, because I think it's the best thing that we can do in this dire situation, the way it's going,
world that we are in. You're not wrong, though. I will say to the it's not often, but I don't know, once every couple of months, I run something that is the Dawn is in a bad mood stream. And I started titling them for not the one today, because it's Dawn's therapy session number 2. But really what that is just, if you do this for a while, you start to like get some buildup of, like the Q thing is just an ever-present hammering on thing at this point.
Yeah, I know you were complaining about that quite a bit this morning. I mean, I agree with you. Q, like, the whole file. Look, man, I watch quite frankly, and I like his show. I don't know if you know Frank, but in his stream, but I'm in his Discord. People ask me all the time, like, about the Q thing, and I'm like, it's a LARP, guys. It's a LARP. It's yeah.
But you get these little things, and they grind on you for a while. And quite a while back, I did some stream that was like just me being pissed off at something, and chat was like, "You should totally do more of these." And I was like, "Well, honestly, I'm not that pissed off at things that often, but I'll tell you what." The next time I am, we'll call it Dawn's therapy session or something. And so I did. And sure enough, as soon as I did it, a bunch of people were like, yes, screw these people. Yes. If I start getting, that, like, you're having a bad month at work kind of feeling, I just, you know what, as promised, I had 20 something things up that were worth talking about. And I started sorting them, and I went, you know what, no, schedule Dawn's therapy stream number 2. All right, I'm just gonna bitch about all the things that are pissing me off, and it really does make you feel better.
Yeah, I would say a lot of the reason all my work over on All Minus One that I do by myself, because this is my baby too, but I outsource like the production to Tank because I don't need to have more stuff to worry about a lot. I let him take care of it. He, we got hooked up through Matt Christensen. Actually, Matt helped me out with that, and basically I'm like, I put out, depending, sometimes, I don't know, 2 to 5 hours of content a week, because I do like hour-long like breakdowns, and I'm reading all this stuff all the time, but I'm gonna do it anyways. I've been doing it for 15 years.
Right.
So that's the thing. And a lot of the times though, I start feeling down. I'm in there being like, yeah, and you stupid people,
Yeah.
And a lot of it is therapy. It is the venting. And it is helpful. And hopefully if I can wake somebody up or give somebody some form of entertainment or educate them some, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing,
and make no mistake, the other person involved in my decision, at least, was the wife, because I am certain this carries over to all autists everywhere. Is some portion of starting the YouTube channel was like, you should go talk to someone who is not me at any point ever about any of this.
That is 1,000% Tank. Tank's wife doesn't want to hear it, I'm pretty certain.
Oh my! Well, she's pretty like apolitical anyway. Well, at least she says so. But here's the thing: so you guys keep this a secret, but
just you, me, and the internet.
Yeah, just you, and this is forever. But her family's pretty liberal. Like, I would say they're your typical like Obama types.
Yeah.
And I think she kind of grew up in that sort of household. But now she's the one, like when she goes back to visit her family by herself, and like they'll be talking about something like guns or whatever, and she's like, well, actually
starts off the conversation, we'll repeal the NFA, damn
it. And she'll come back and she'll be like, yeah, we kind of got into like, I got to argue with my dad and my brother about guns and stuff. And I'm like, yeah, because I'm rubbing off on you there. She's not completely sold on the Ted Kaczynski stuff yet, but give me about a year and I think we'll have it.
My wife has gotten so, she's like, I can't believe how conservative I gotten the longer I'm with you. And I'm actually pretty, like, I consider myself a classical liberal. I'm a pretty liberal guy. I don't care what you do. I don't want to force anything, but I have my own, deeper conservative personal beliefs or whatever. But yeah, I tell her about this stuff, and she gets the same way. I don't want to hear it. I know it's just too much. I can't handle it. I don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
And she's worked in politics, so it's like,
oh man, you're getting spicy when they work in politics, and they're like, okay, could you stop talking about politics, please?
What she does now is animal advocacy, which is adjacent to politics. They do work with policy stuff, but before it was like libertarian type orgs or conservative orgs, and
yeah.
And you'd be surprised too, folks, the way that the swamp operates, and a lot of those orgs, how they just are there to perpetuate their own existence and really do anything.
Oh man. So one of my subscribers was a lobbyist for a while.
Oh God.
And so there has been like, so I'm going to go to DC and try to get a hold of politicians. And there's like, okay, so this is the ritual that you have to go through to be able to talk to a politician. I'm like, seriously? I mean, because well, go meet them, but you're not actually there to meet them. You're there to meet a staffer, and that staffer is going to give you a phone number, and that phone number is going to allow you to, at some point, be able to talk to someone who will know how to get a hold of a scheduler, and that scheduler you have to convince that you have a good idea, who, by the way, is going to need to be verified by the staffer, who, just so you know, is going to forget you exist 2 seconds after you walk out the door. By the way, by the time you actually get back to meeting the politician that you showed up the first time to meet, they are going to have no idea who you are or what you are there for. Yeah, and by the way, boil the pitch down to 5 minutes or less.
Right. I often tell the audience about a I believe he was a congressional staffer for Arizona, whoever the congressman was. So this is a guy, his wife worked for like a friend of my, it was like the assistant of like a friend of my wife's. So this guy's around. I'm like, oh, so what do you do? Blah, blah, blah. And he's actually asking me, he's grilling me about, well, what do I do? And I don't remember at the time. I think I might have been working at FedEx because I was going to school full time and whatever. I quit my job at the sheriff's department and started working, at FedEx. Anyways, I mean that was later. I actually took a year off, but I said something like that, and he's like, "Oh," and he kind of was looking down on me, and then I was like, "Yeah, but dude, I did all this other stuff," and he goes, "Oh, so you're accomplished," and I'm like, "What about you?" And he's like, "Well, I'm a staffer for this congressman, but I don't really do anything." Which he did. He literally told me, and he's like, "Yeah, I basically make $70,000 a year to do nothing," and he's like, "I don't even go into work, but like twice a week."
Yeah.
And that's our government, guys. That is our government, and that's a true story, like 1,000%.
Yeah,
I'm not one to lie about things. So,
I mean, you ever go up to like battalion and try and see what they're doing, because they're never doing anything, right? Like, oh man, we're planning the next thing that we're doing. Like, I can do that in 10 minutes. How long have you been doing this? 4 days.
When I went into the company office, fortunately, we got deployed to Iraq, and I got put back in a line platoon. So that was like my company gunny, because I worked in the company office. I was close with. In fact, he just retired. He was up to be a sergeant major in the Marine Corps a year or so ago, Sergeant Major Zigafus. But he was my company gunny. They frocked him to first sergeant before we deployed because our first sergeant was non-deployable, and he put me back in first platoon because I hated the idea of being in headquarters. Period. But because I spent like 6-9 months, whatever it was there, I had 12-hour days of going into the office, getting up at 6:30, being there at 7, and getting off at 7, and doing nothing, just sitting there, or doing something for the XO, like typing up something he could do for himself. I would sit there and play solitaire, and he would think I didn't do this on purpose, but I'd be playing solitaire on the computer because I had nothing to do as a clerk, and I was a crap clerk anyways, because I didn't have any clerk skills. Right. And he found out that I would be like just playing solitaire. He's like, "I thought you were busy with work. That's why I didn't ask you to do it." And I was like, "Sir, just ask me, right. You didn't ask me." But because, again, my company gunny knew that I wasn't that guy. He basically let me run headquarters platoon and sent me out on a bunch of cool things. I got this little thing back here, which you can't really get because it's not a real school, but I'm a mount instructor, what they used to call it back in the day. Yeah. We got to wear the flight suits and everything else. Got to be all cool.
Oh man. So I had a staff sergeant that hated me when I got sent up to headquarters. And so I just did dumb shit, well, as an NCO, you should go supervise troops cleaning out this closet. And I'm like, it's cleaning out a closet and they're Marines. Like, I feel like they can handle this.
Right.
Well, you should go supervise them. And I was like, all right. Well, I guess I can't tell you no. So.
Yeah, that was probably something that kept me sane, was especially going to go be a mount instructor. And I don't know what they call it these days. What do they call urban combat training these days? Is it still mount? Because I thought they changed the name, the acronym or something. But
they probably did. But that's what it was when I was there. Though there was a whole bunch of attempt to change acronyms while I was there, and just nobody, like, CAX isn't called CAX anymore. It's something stupid. I don't know, Desert Victory or some crap. And I was like, or it's a combined arms exercise, otherwise known as CAX. Just stop.
Do you know anybody that ever went on an atoll? I met like one guy the entire time I was in the Marine Corps, and they said it was awesome, except for everything kills you in the Amazon jungle. But I always wanted to go on an atoll. I always wanted to go down to South America, and that was some opportunity. I don't even know how you get on in the Marine Corps.
So my MOS school instructor, he was a gunny at the time, right? So this guy, this guy, like, one, he's an artilleryman, right? Because he's doing artillery school things. Always been an artilleryman, except when he did embassy duty. However, this guy's first enlistment, he's like, yeah, so my first enlistment, like, they took me down to South America, and then, like, we were just doing, like, snatch and grab missions, jump out of helicopters and fast rope. And I was like, you're fucking with me, right? Like, you're an artillery, bro. What? And he was like, yeah, I don't know. It's just like, it's what the Marine Corps needed me to do. So that's what I did. And then he was one of the first guys ever in Afghanistan. He was like, yeah, it was me and like 4 staff sergeants. And it was just us. We were just running around doing whatever the hell we want. And I was like, what is this Marine Corps?
It's funny because when I, when September 11th kicked off, and I remember I was sleeping, I was in my room, and at the time, because of our barracks, we had armed security at our barracks because our armory was in our basement and everything was indoor. So, and this is because we were really, we were a really small unit too. So we had this PA system that you could buzz into anybody's room. And so the guy who was running basically the front desk is yelling into my room. And he's like, Corporal, you need to wake up, blah, blah, blah. There's got this and this, that going on. And I'm like, shut up. Going back to sleep.
There's no way this is that big of a deal. Oh, I was wrong.
Normally it's not. Normally it's BS. And so then he yells at me again. I come down and I'm like, okay. So I go to our little rec room and they have it playing on TV. And I get there just right before the second plane hits. And so we beef up security big time, all that stuff. And we're completely locked down. We're like an hour away from DC. So we're really heightened security. And freaking within a week or so, Fox News is out in Afghanistan or whenever it was that they had troops deployed over there.
Yep.
And my old squad leaders on the end of this Fox News show with the troops going, hi, Mom. Hi, Dad. I'm okay. And we're like, holy cow, that's right. I'm like, small world when you have 175,000 Marines, in at once. And
it sounds like a giant number, but oh my God, were you in during Vegley this time? Yeah. Do you know this guy? Of course I know that guy.
Yeah, it's an interesting a little club, but Tank, you falling asleep over there, man?
Oh, no, I'm good. I'm just hanging out.
Okay. I was just gonna say it's coming up on that suggested pumpkin time.
Yeah.
So
yeah, we should close it out from here. Hey guys, thank you all for watching. We got a bunch of new followers on D Live, so appreciate that. Obviously go watch the replays. We're down in viewers though. We were like 20 something. We're at 13 now. People are getting tired of our crap.
that will happen.
Yeah. If you haven't already though, guys, give us a like, subscribe. We're trying to build our channel. You can find me over at All-1 on YouTube. I also am on Rumble. I have a locals page. I'm working on the alt tech stuff. Tank used to have a joke about an OnlyFans, but we're supposed to be scrapping that.
Professionalism.
Yeah, there's only so many times I can make jokes about pictures of my butthole before it gets tiresome. But
is there actually a limit on that?
Well,
but, Don,
my mother would probably get upset if she saw it. So
yeah.
Don, a lot of the people that watch us, I think, already watch you. But go ahead. I mean, you got stuff. Plug it, brother. I mean,
oh, by all means, there is indeed the Plebeian Media channel on YouTube, which is now Pleb Media, so people can actually find it. There is a D Live. There's a Rumble. There's a library. There is a BitChute, but I don't post anything to it. There's a Discord. There's a Twitter. There was a Parler. There is a Gab. And I think that's at least the majority of it. Someone will correct me and go, Don, you forgot one of these other 97 things that you're on. Probably the best way to find, you know what I mean? Probably the best way to find all of it, though, is if you head over to the YouTube channel, at least for the moment. The description has links to all of it. So by all means, wherever you are, I probably am, except Facebook, because when I was a 300 subscriber channel, Facebook started suppressing my content, and I went, okay, then we're just done. So
yeah, and you had a big boost this year when you released the Atlanta police recording, the scanner recordings, because I remember watching that.
Yeah.
And I posted to my like personal Facebook, and I don't really use social media that much, but I'm a poster. I don't really look at people's stuff. So, but I I saw that, and I saw you tick up a little bit because I think you were at like 1,000 subs, and then here at the Million MAGA March before the insurrection. Um,
Indeed.
That was a failure of an insurrection if I ever seen one. But
was it? I think I said it yesterday, right? But this is the group of people who don't go to the store without a gun, but you think they went to an insurrection without a gun.
Yeah, you did say that, and when you said that, I thought, yeah, every time I go to the store. I'm in West Virginia. We got constitutional carry, man. I'm like, I got a gun,
right?
Yeah. Anyways, yeah, but you had another big uptick in the Million MAGA March. Is that not correct? Like from a few weeks back?
Yeah. So I highly recommend. I don't know how good it will remain being, but I highly recommend being the only stream on the Donald. It's good for your channel.
All right. Well, I mean, yeah, you went from like 4,000 to over 10, like overnight.
Yeah. And the really wild thing about that is YouTube called something like 6,000 subscribers the night of while I was live.
No doubt. No doubt.
Because I had like, mods and people that I trust to not lie to me who were like, oh my God, you just broke 9,000. Wait, what? You broke 9,000 2 minutes ago, but now you're at 3,500 again. And I was like, seriously? And they went, yeah. And so I went, all right, well, everybody check and make sure you're subscribed. And I've friends that I've had for 10 years were like, yeah, sure enough, just got unsubscribed. So
yeah, I've had weird things leading up to the election. I have a tiny channel. I think I have 95 subs right now on my All Minus One account. So, and I know it takes a while to build these things up, and nor do I expect to be, in the 100,000 level anytime ever. But
we'll all get yeeted before then.
yeah, exactly. But yeah, I was seeing my subs go down. I'm like, did I say something that pissed somebody off? They just unsub me because I'm not saying anything different than I've been from the beginning. And, it's just really weird. And then we weren't growing at all for like the month leading up to the election. And then all of a sudden, start seeing subs again, start seeing a little bit of growth, and just very strange stuff that they do.
It's, that is effectively how I got around to, what, that's it. I'm just going to talk to the entirety of YouTube that is to the right of Mao. And for that matter, Twitter and everybody else, because nobody is doing this. And every single one of these algorithms hates us. I got a guy that is what you could reasonably call my outreach program. He goes and tracks these things down, and it's how a lot of these streams get set up. And one of the near universal truths of what he's been doing it for, I don't know, maybe 8 months now. And one of the universal truths is that people find the channel and go, oh my God, how did I not know this existed? And I'm like, well, YouTube, that's how you didn't know it existed.
I think, honestly, I started watching you really this year, but I was subscribed to you before when you had a partner on a show. And I hadn't watched the show in a long time because I just hadn't seen it come up.
Yeah.
And then you started making content on your own, I guess. And that's when I got, really started following you. But with everything going on, I mean, you were doing pretty good coverage about the riots and tactics. You start talking about, commies, and I'm like, oh, yeah, this guy knows what he's talking about. You gotta watch him.
It's funny because you start talking about commies, and you talk to people who have no idea what you're talking about, and they're like, oh, lol, stupid Cold Warrior retards. And then you talk to someone who is so much as like read Animal Farm, and they're like, that is happening.
My favorite's when the commies try to twist like Animal Farm or 1984 into being some sort of like ideal world.
Oh, yeah.
They're like, oh no, Orwell wasn't preaching against communism. He was for it. And I'm like, Orwell? Really? Yeah. I just like, are you sure about that? Because yeah, he did have socialist leanings, but you read you read the totality of his work, and you look at his life, and I mean, he fought in the Spanish Civil War. But you look at all that stuff, and I think he was starting to realize maybe some of his ideas when he was younger weren't that smart.
He did a lot of like little pen, single page writing stuff that was like that was sort of what you get out of commies now, right? Like, well, look, if we could just do this without all the authoritarianism, then maybe that would be good.
Yeah.
And I would like to hope that by the end of his life, he was like, so maybe this just isn't possible. But honestly, I don't know.
Well, before I sign us out here, I have one more question, and that is, have you ever read the book We by Zamatian, Yevgeny Zamatian? He was one of the old Bolsheviks. He wrote this book during the rise of communism in Russia, and they eventually expelled him. And of course,
as they do,
and it's this whole like interesting kind of dystopian type world based on Taylorism and all the old commie stuff. It's a pretty good book, but supposedly Orwell had read this right before the summer before he began writing 1984.
Are you why I know this book exists? Did you bring this up in the podcast that you sent me? Because somebody I bring it up long ago.
I bring it up on occasion.
What is this guy's name? Because I heard about this somewhere and went, I should totally go get that.
But it's Russian, so it's Yevgeny, but it's Eugene, and in Russian. Zamatian. If you just type in "we book" or "we dystopia," it should come up. I will tell you this: there are several different translations from several different transcripts. So depending on which one you get, it's going to read a little bit different.
Oh wow, yeah, his that's a hell of a way to spell Eugene.
Yep. Well, like I said before, I got a lot of Russian friends, so I get the name. I don't know any of them that like communism. They grew up under, Soviet rule. But
did you catch the Dasha Pruitt interview?
No.
You should go back and watch it, because she immigrated to the U.S. in something like 83 or something like that, and was a teenager that lived in Soviet Russia prior to that.
I'll have to look into it. Yeah, guys, real quick again, you can find me all-1 YouTube, Rumble, that kind of stuff. Don's much more well-known. And just so we get off the air here, because otherwise we'll keep chatting. This has been the Justify the Memes. We are on every Wednesday at 7 p.m. If we have a special show, we'll let you know. We should be booked for Rebecca from Beauty and the Beta coming up soon, or Blonde in the Belly of the Beast.
Well, man, you're gonna have to tell me how you manage that.
Because I know her. I used to be a Patreon because I know her. That's why. I also we got next week the weekly narrative at our normal scheduled time, 7 p.m. We'll let you guys know when those things are coming up. With all that said, this has been the Ends Justify the Memes, and remember, the ends always justify those memes. Play the outro, Tank.
I'm talking about all the way to the top, yeah. Unjustifiably in a position that I'd rather not be in, but the cream will rise to the top, oh yeah. Macho madness, yeah, it's got more to offer than President Jack Tunney thinks that I got, yeah. And I'm gonna tell you something right now. Cards stacked against the Macho Man Randy Savage in WrestleMania 3. Yeah, let me say it, yeah. Let me say it out loud. And let me point to the president of the World Wrestling Federation.